When the high-dimensional will turned all 9 billion of us into lords, the flashy kids drew attack talents and beasts, while I, an orphan nobody, drew the A-rank talent everyone laughed at, impregnable fortress. When I refused to bow, the rich bully Wang Ho swore he would flatten my territory. What they missed was that my defenses cost half the resources and half the time, growing stronger every time my lord's mansion leveled. While they raised 1 arrow tower, I raised 2, until my walls grew so thick that Wang Ho's whole wolf cavalry shattered against them. The orphan they told to submit became the wall the bully broke himself on. Subscribe if you have not already, and drop a like to keep the algorithm fed. Story starts now. But none of this happened overnight. Let me start from the day it all broke open. A cold, vast voice tears through my mind, and my eyes snap open. The announcement rolls over me like a wave from somewhere higher than the sky, declaring that a high-dimensional will has descended, that the era of global lords has begun, that all 9.1 billion humans on Blue Star are being teleported at once. I barely have time to register the words before the world rearranges itself. The familiar classroom of my senior class at Gugang First High School is gone, and in its place stretches a boundless expanse of emerald green grass under an open sky. A crude wooden shack stands alone behind me, and in front of it 10 men and women in coarse linen wait with dazed eyes, watching me as though I am the one who is supposed to know what happens next. Is this transmigration? Before I can finish the thought, the grand voice returns and welcomes me to the newbie continent, telling me that everyone here will become a lord with their own territory and subjects. That the goal is simple: survive and grow stronger. The lord system activates inside me. It loads my initial territory, a level 1 lord's mansion, and 10 peasants. Then loads my only starting resource, a single white recruitment order. Then it announces that it will extract my exclusive talent, grades running randomly from E to S, and it wishes me good luck, as if luck were a thing it could give. A massive golden roulette wheel spins up in front of my eyes, light flickering across its face, slowing, until a beam of gold shoots from it and pours into the space between my brows. The system congratulates me. I have drawn a grade A talent called Impregnable Fortress. Inside my territory, it tells me, all defensive buildings cost half the resources and half the construction time. The difficulty of unlocking advanced defensive buildings drops sharply, and the damage, range, and durability of every defensive building grows stronger as my lord's mansion climbs in level. A grade A talent. My heart stirs. The system said the grades ran from E to S, which puts A near the very top, and the strange part is how perfectly the effects fit me. I grew up in an orphanage, cautious to the bone, the kind of person who maps the worst-case exit for everything before he sets foot anywhere. I have never believed I could scheme and maneuver across a battlefield like some born general, but digging in, raising walls, laying foundations, being a king of the steady grinding path, that is exactly to my taste. The ultimate defense is the sharpest offense, I tell myself, and I have never been more satisfied with the hand I was dealt. I turn to the 10 bewildered peasants and introduce myself as their lord, Imbiom. The instant the words leave me, they bow as one and greet me, the confusion draining from their eyes and loyalty rising to replace it, so total that they look ready to throw up their arms and weep with joy. I nod and open the Lord's panel to learn what I am working with. It is clean and spare, split into territory, construction, recruitment, and channel. I open recruitment first, where my lone white recruitment order sits waiting, capable of randomly summoning between 1 and 10 troops anywhere from Tier 1 to Tier 3. I use it without hesitation. White light flashes, and 8 militia appear, gripping wooden spears, strapped into crude leather armor. The system lays them out for me, Tier 1 troops at level 1, each with health 55, mana 40, strength 10, stamina 11, agility 7, spirit 8, intelligence 8, no skills. The description calling them a basic armed force whose combat power beats nothing at all. Not bad, I think, keeping my mindset steady. They may be Tier 1, but at least there are more than one of them. I order the 8 to split into pairs and spread out around the territory on guard, and they take the order and move. Then I send the 10 peasants out to gather every scrap of wood and stone they can find. They take the command and turn into 10 hardworking little bees, throwing themselves at the work. Watching my territory begin to take shape, I open the last section, the channel. It splits into world, area, and private chat. The world channel has already detonated thousands of messages a second, scrolling past faster than any human eye could follow, the whole feed an avalanche of 9 billion people dumping panic and disbelief into one stream at once. Someone insists they were yanked here mid-toilet. Someone is crying for their mother. Someone is bragging that a grade B beast affinity talent gave them a pet wolf, and that everyone should kneel. Someone else is shouting that a grade B is nothing because their brother drew a grade A. I leave the noise behind and switch to the area channel. The system tells me I have been assigned to a newbie area, and that this channel only reaches lords inside the same area. There are far fewer people here, but it is just as loud, and as I scan it, I keep finding names I know. The division of areas, I realize, must track where each of us lived before the teleport, because almost everyone here is from Gugang City, and a fair number are schoolmates. Then a bolded red message swallows the entire screen. It is an area announcement, posted by a lord named Wang Ho, ordering everyone to listen. He announces himself, a senior from Gangsong First High School, declares he drew the grade A talent Berserk Charge, brags that his starting recruitment gave him 5 Tier 3 Wolf Cavalry, and proclaims that his strength crushes every one of us. Wang Ho. My eyes flicker. This is that rich second-generation kid from our grade, the one who plays the petty tyrant every day on the strength of his family's money. Bad people, it turns out, have their own kind of luck. Berserk Charge sounds like a brutal early-game offensive talent, and paired with Wolf Cavalry, it is genuinely a dimensional strike for the newbie stage. The area channel boils over the moment his words land, his school lackeys leaping out to fawn. One of them, named Zhang Wei, claims to be a classmate and begs to be looked after, while others swear they will follow Ho Hyung wherever his grade A talent and Wolf Cavalry take him. Watching these familiar faces grovel, I almost laugh. Even in another world, the same fools play the same parts. Wang Ho clearly loves being the center of it. He posts again, declaring that those who know how the world works are the heroes, announcing the founding of the Heavenly Wolf Alliance, ordering every lord in the area to join and submit to his unified command, insisting that unity is the only way to survive this hellhole. Then he draws the line. Those who join, he protects. Those who refuse become enemies of the entire Heavenly Wolf Alliance, and the moment he develops, the first thing he will do is flatten them. The threat carries an ugly, unquestioning weight. Most people fold at once and pledge themselves in the channel, because in a world this strange, grabbing onto the thickest leg you can see is an instinct. A few stay silent. Then he starts reading the silent list, and within seconds he calls me out by name, demanding to know why I am saying nothing, asking if I am mute. The sudden attention surprises me. I barely ever spoke to Wang Ho in school, and the only reason he knows me at all is that my name sat in the top 3 of the grade most of the time. People like him reserve their sharpest hatred for those who are better than them, and quieter about it. Right on cue, Zhang Wei sneers that I am that nerd who knows nothing, and a girl named Jo Riri adds that I am just an orphan who kept to himself, probably scared out of my mind. I read the cold mockery without expression. I have no interest in answering, but Wang Ho has no intention of letting it drop. He demands one final time whether I am joining the Heavenly Wolf Alliance, and orders me to give a clear answer. I think for a moment, then type one slow line. I type back that on the Global Lord stage, each of us rises by his own ability. No insults, no argument, just a flat statement of fact. But in Wang Ho's eyes, it reads as the most direct provocation possible, and the entire area channel goes silent. No one expected the quiet top student to be the first to publicly defy him. A few seconds later, his fury scrolls out. He spits back a sarcastic good, each by his own ability, and tells me I have guts. Then comes the promise. I should wait because he will find me, and the first thing he does once he is ready will be to lead his troops to my territory and teach me how to spell the word death. After that, he goes quiet, plainly livid, and the others rush in to offer their condolences, betting I have studied myself stupid, calling me dead meat, mourning a top student about to vanish over a grade A talent. I closed the noisy channel without a flicker of fear. Was I afraid? A little, but not much. Wang Ho was right that his talent and that absurdly lucky pack of Tier 3 troops are powerful in the early game. But he overlooked the one thing that matters most. The endless continent is enormous, and even inside a single newbie area, the distance between territories is beyond imagining. Finding me on that vast map would be like searching for a needle in a haystack, and the thing I need most right now is time. I look at my bustling territory, where the 10 peasants have already piled up a respectable heap of wood and stone, and I open the construction list, my eyes landing on the most basic defensive building there is. The wooden arrow tower normally costs 400 wood and 200 stone and takes 8 hours to raise, but under my talent the numbers fold in half before my eyes. 200 wood, 100 stone. 4 hours. For the same resources, while everyone else builds 1, I build 2. In the same span of time, while everyone else builds 1, I still build 2. Wang Ho, I think. I hope that by the time you arrive my walls are already thick enough. I do not hesitate. I select the wooden arrow tower from the build panel, and when it asks whether I want to spend 200 wood and 100 stone over an estimated 4 hours, I confirm the construction with a thought. The 2 nearest peasants drop what they are doing and jog to an open patch behind the Lord's mansion, pull a blueprint from their robes, and begin marking the ground. A phantom image of the tower rises out of thin air, and they set to hammering and sawing at the projection while a progress bar ticks down in my vision toward the 4-hour mark. I wander over to the peasants hauling resources to watch them work. They are full of energy and their efficiency is pathetic. They have no decent tools, chopping trees with stone axes and carrying stones in their bare arms. Technology is the first productive force, I think, and I clearly need a way to lift their gathering speed. Defense towers alone will not carry me either, because even the most skilled cook cannot make a meal without rice. And no matter how strong the towers are, they cannot be raised out of nothing. I am still turning the tool problem over when a militiaman on sentry duty comes pounding up, gasping for breath, reporting that something has been spotted to the east. I tell him to slow down and lay it out. He says they found a group of green-skinned monsters in a small grove about a kilometer to the east, gathered around what looks like a chest. Green-skinned monsters, a chest. This is the starter village's bonus round if I have ever seen one. I ask how many and what they look like, and he tells me 5 or 6, very short, carrying crude wooden clubs, sneaky, the 2 scouts too wary to get close. 5 or 6 does not sound like much. I glance at my 8 militia, then at the tower rising noisily in the distance, and I order all the militia to assemble and follow me. Leaving the territory's temporary security to the peasants, I lead the 8 east, moving carefully. After a stretch of thin grassland, the grove comes into view, and I duck behind a wide tree and ease half my head past it. In a clearing, 6 monsters no taller than my chest crowd around a battered wooden chest, jabbering and squabbling as if arguing over how to split the loot. Their skin emerald, their ears pointed. The system reads them out as goblins, Tier 1, Level 1, Health 35. Weak across the board, the description naming them low creatures with poor brains who love shiny things and bully the weak while fearing the strong. Starter mobs, exactly as I guessed. My militia are also Tier 1, but their attributes run higher. There are 8 of them against 6, and I am standing behind them to command. 8 against 6. The advantage is mine. The only real question is how to micromanage this to keep my losses near 0. I study the terrain and whisper the plan. 4 of them flanking left, 4 staying with me on the right. Both wings to charge at once on my signal. The militia move into place, clumsy but obedient, and once both teams are set, I swing my hand down hard and order the charge. The 8 roar to steady their own nerves and slam into the goblins from both sides while the little monsters are still mid-argument, and the goblins, who plainly never imagined humans walking in, dissolve into shrieking chaos. They raise their clubs, but their formation is already shattered, which makes them no threat at all. My militia have combat skill that rounds to nothing, but their loyalty is maxed, their morale high, and they fear nothing, and 8 against 6 does the rest. A spear punches through a goblin's chest and dark green blood sprays, and the fight hits a fever pitch. I do not throw myself into the melee. My job is the command, not the killing, so I stay back and keep the line organized, calling 1 militiaman to stab a goblin's flank, ordering another 2 paces right. Under direction, their attacks tighten and their efficiency jumps, and in under 3 minutes all the goblins lie in pools of blood. On my side, only 1 militiaman took a club to the arm, a minor wound. Nothing serious. The system congratulates me on my troops' first victory and a small trickle of experience, then tells me 1 militiaman fought bravely enough to reach level 2. Killing mobs grants levels. I check the one who leveled and find his strength and agility each up by a point. A pleasant little surprise. I walk quickly to the battered chest, but instead of tearing it open, I first have the militia sweep the surroundings to confirm there is nothing else waiting. Only then do I open it. There is no golden glow inside, just an unglamorous pile of resources and a sheet of yellowed parchment. The system congratulates me on 1,000 wood, 500 stone, 50 iron ore, and a gray blueprint for a logging axe, and I could shout with joy. 1,000 wood and 500 stone is more than my 10 peasants could break their backs to gather in a full day, and now it is all mine in an instant. The blueprint matters even more. The logging axe needs only 10 wood and 5 iron ore to craft, and once equipped it lifts a peasant's wood gathering by 1/3. Someone handing me a pillow the moment I grow sleepy. I was just fretting over gathering speed, and here is a charcoal fire dropped into the snow. Better still, the 50 iron ore I just looted is exactly enough for 10 axes, 1 for each peasant. I order everyone back to the territory at once, and we return loaded with spoils. Inside, I open the build panel, find the tool crafting option, and craft 10 logging axes, the system consuming 100 wood and the 50 iron ore before it reports production complete. 10 worn-looking axes appearing on the open ground in front of the Lord's mansion almost instantly. I call my 10 peasants over to distribute them, and they put down their loads and snatch up the new axes, faces wild with joy, thanking and praising their lord. I have no idea why they praise me while working themselves like beasts of burden, but if it makes them work harder, I will not complain. With the new tools, the wood count on the resource panel climbs noticeably faster, and watching everything flourish, I nod, satisfied. I announce that we have the resources now and order 2 more arrow towers built, 1 on the west and 1 on the south. 3 arrow towers rising at once, and I am in a fine mood. With nothing pressing to do, I open the area channel to see what everyone is up to. It is still noisy, but a layer of solemnity and dread has settled over it now. Someone's territory has a wild boar their 10 peasants cannot scratch, and they have no idea what to do. Someone's lone Tier 1 goblin was carried off by a wolf. While scouting, someone is just afraid of the coming dark. Not everyone got Wang Ho's lucky draw. Most people pulled Tier 1 units. A few only got 1 or 2. And as the hours pass, the dangers of the endless continent are starting to bare their teeth. Wang Ho, the king of posers, stays the center of it all. Then a blood-red announcement bursts in every mind at once, like a thunderclap. The first trial of the 7-day newbie period, the Crimson Moon, begins tonight, after midnight. During it, all wild creatures fall berserk, their aggression and abilities sharply raised, and small monster tides will strike each lord's core, the lord's mansion, from random directions. The voice tells us to prepare, that those who survive the first night earn generous rewards, and that those who fail to defend will be obliterated. The word obliterated lands with a bone-deep cold that silences the whole world for a heartbeat before every channel detonates again. The world channel becomes an avalanche of disbelief and terror from people who do not own a single wooden fence and have no idea how they're supposed to survive. Panic spreading like a plague. The area channel is worse. All wails of despair. People certain they are dead, with no soldiers at all. Others begging Wang Ho to save them in exchange for everything they own. Wang Ho goes quiet for a moment, plainly rattled by the news, then posts again with a forced calm wrapped around obvious smugness. He tells everyone to stop panicking, that if the sky falls he will hold it up, that it is just a swarm of minor mobs his 5 Tier 3 wolf cavalry can handle, that no member of the Heavenly Wolf Alliance has anything to fear. Then he turns the knife my way, singling me out, wishing me good luck, and hoping my bones are as tough as my mouth, hoping the monsters do not gnaw me down to nothing. He is using me as the example again, a prop for his own strength, and his lackeys pile on at once, betting I am wetting myself, gloating that this is what offending Ho Hyun earns, promising to come admire my tombstone tomorrow. I read it all with a calm gaze. Fear, of course, there is some, but more than that, there is relief, because the advantages of an A-ranked talent are finally showing, and 3 arrow towers are nearly done. I check the resource panel and find the axes and towers have nearly drained me. A few hundred wood and a couple hundred stone left. I shout for the peasants to speed up their gathering. The great territory needs more. Then open the build list, where a new structure waits. The wooden wall normally costs 20 wood per meter and 10 minutes per meter, and under my talent it halves to 10 wood and 5 minutes per meter. Arrow towers are point defense, walls are area defense, and only by marrying the two do you get a true line. Racing the Grim Reaper is not a pleasant feeling. I stare at the resource numbers crawling up and the wall's progress bar inching along, doing the math in my head. Arrow towers and a thin wall do not feel secure enough. At night, vision is the real problem, and if monsters creep in out of the dark, the towers may as well be blind. I open the build list again and comb carefully through everything a level 1 Lord's Mansion permits, until a building I overlooked surfaces. It is an illumination lighthouse, providing wide-range light to dispel the darkness, costing 300 wood, 150 stone, and 1 white crystal. 8 hours to raise. White crystal. I have no idea what that is. I search my resource bar and find nothing but wood and stone, the iron already spent on the axes. The talent line about advanced defensive buildings being easier to unlock must be working here, because others probably cannot even see this blueprint while I can. And yet I lack the one material that matters. Time is tight, too tight to send people out searching slowly, so the only path is the area channel, and the hope that someone got lucky at the start. I open it again. The wailing is burned down into a desperate quiet now. The rare message that surfaces soaked in helplessness. Someone whose peasants were just eaten by a wolf. Someone groveling to rejoin the Heavenly Wolf Alliance. Wang Ho does not answer, no doubt savoring the begging. I have no time for that, so I post my own message, offering to buy 1 white crystal at a steep price, 400 wood and 200 stone. Private message to trade. The message lands like a depth charge in stagnant water, and the channel ignites. People cannot believe the numbers, demanding to know who I am and where I got so much, asking whether I chopped down the whole forest outside my door. One declares I must be a big shot, and another points out to Wang Ho that this Imbiome looks even richer than he is. That last one is the kind of message that makes Wang Ho's eyes itch, but he still does not appear, plainly having read it and found no way to answer. He was just mocking me as the first to die, and here I am producing enough resources to turn everyone green. Soon a private chat request pops up. A girl named Su Moonmoo asks, hesitant, whether I really mean to trade 400 wood and 200 stone for 1 white crystal. I remember her, a usually quiet girl from the class next door, and I tell her yes, and ask if she has one. She does. Her talent is the C-rank Lucky Blessing, which grants her 1 blessing a day with a small chance at an extra item, and when she used it at the start it handed her a white crystal she never understood. A luck king then. C-rank or not, that kind of randomness can occasionally spit out miracles. I tell her to trade, but she says she is afraid to leave her territory with monsters outside. I explain that trading is a system function, no need to meet in person, that she should place the white crystal on the trading platform set to exchange for 400 wood and 200 stone, and I will confirm on my end. She is amazed it is that easy and promises to do it at once. A few seconds later, the trade notification appears. Lord Su Moonmoo offering 1 white crystal for 400 wood and 200 stone, and I click agree without hesitation. The resources vanish from my warehouse, and a fist-sized crystal glowing soft white settles into my inventory. The moment it goes through, she sends an excited message, barely able to believe she received it, thanking me as the big shot Imbiome, saying that with these resources she can build an arrow tower and maybe live through tonight. I tell her we each got what we needed, and close the chat. Then I begin building the illumination lighthouse, and when the system asks for the materials, my talent halves them again, the wood and stone, and the time all cut down. I confirm the construction. 2 peasants set down their logging axes, run to the open ground directly in front of the Lord's mansion, and raise the blueprint, a phantom lighthouse rising from the earth before they fall to clanging work. 4 hours. Plenty of time. With the lighting solved, my chest loosens a little. Time passes minute by minute. In the area channel, the cries for help thin out and die in a dead silence, because everyone knows by now that distant water cannot put out a nearby fire. And in this cruel elimination game, the only person you can lean on is yourself. 2 notifications announce the west and south arrow towers complete, and now 3 towers stand in a triangle around the Lord's mansion and the half-finished lighthouse at the center. I sit on the ground and pick at some wild fruit the militia gathered, genuinely starving, with nothing but a handful of unknown fruits nearby. I had a peasant eat a few earlier with no obvious ill effects. Food is the fuel of life, and I cannot starve before the tide even arrives, nor fight on an empty stomach, nor expect my militia to. Then the final notification lands, the illumination lighthouse complete. A 10-meter tower of wood and stone standing dead center in the territory. I order it active. The white crystal at its peak flares. A soft clear beam shoots into the sky and unfurls like an opening umbrella, washing nearly 200 meters of ground as bright as day. And standing inside the light, I feel a faint, almost imperceptible warmth. The darkness is gone. My territory has begun to take shape. 3 wooden arrow towers stand in their triangle, guarding the Lord's mansion at the center. And a ring of freshly raised wooden walls, crude and far from sturdy, at least gives me a barrier and a buffer. 8 militiamen line up behind the walls with their spears, staring into the far darkness, and the 10 peasants hide inside the Lord's mansion, trembling as they peer through the cracks in the door. I take the roof of the Lord's mansion, the spot with the best view, where I can see every inch the lighthouse touches, and the bottomless dark crouch just past its edge. The countdown ticks down, the cold numbers appearing in everyone's sight, and when the last of them falls, the crimson moon descends, a blood-red moon hanging high and bathing the earth in eerie red light. In the dark, the roars of beasts and the shrieks of monsters rise and fall, thick with frenzy and bloodlust, and a warning flashes that a small monster tide has been detected approaching from the east. It is here. I turn east at once. At the edge of the lighthouse's reach, small green heads push out of the dark, their builds close to the goblins from before, but their eyes blood-red, saliva running from their mouths. Sharp stones lashed to their clubs. The system names them Frenzied Goblins, Tier 1, their stats sharpened, their skill called Frenzy, which during the Crimson Moon spikes their will to attack and lets them ignore pain. The description calling them cannon fodder that has wholly lost its mind. There are about 35 times the last batch. For an unlucky lord, this number would be a catastrophe, I think. But for me, it is barely a problem. The Frenzied Goblins spot the lit territory, loose a wave of ear-splitting shrieks, and pour forward on their short legs, straight into the firing range of the towers. The east tower fires first. Its phantom archer hauls the bowstring to the limit, and a single arrow flashes through the air and drives clean into the eye socket of the lead goblin, a sharp damage number floating up. The goblin drops head first before it can even scream, twitches twice, and goes still. An instant kill, and my eyes light up. The base damage of a wooden arrow tower is not high, but the third effect of Impregnable Fortress is live. The tower's damage and range and durability all carrying an extra 10% increase as the Lord's mansion levels. The mansion is only level 1, yet the boost is already substantial. Then all 3 towers fire together. The arrows of Reaper's scythe harvesting goblins row by row, the survivors trampling their own dead under the frenzy and charging on regardless. The first wave reaches the walls and pounds them with clubs, dull thuds rolling across the field. The system reports my wooden wall taking durability damage. A few points here, a few there, and I glance at the bar and find it healthy. I order the militia to prepare, calm, telling them to fire at will and prioritize any goblin trying to climb the wall. They have been itching for it, and they thrust their spears through the gaps the instant the order lands. One goblin mid-swing skewered, dark green blood splashing the wall. The fight turns into a simple, efficient slaughter, the tower sniping at range while the militia clean up anything that closes. The line solid, not one goblin making it across. I have enough leisure to open the area channel. It has exploded again, but this time it is wails and pleas. Monsters from the east, peasants killed, militia dead, a fence pushed down, the things already inside, people begging anyone to save them, screaming for Wang Ho. Amid the misery, his arrogant face finally reappears, calling everyone useless trash for failing to stop 30 goblins. He brags that his 5-wolf cavalry killed half in a single charge and have dealt with the rest, telling them this is what strength looks like, that only by following him do they survive. In his territory, the 5-wolf cavalry do stand domineering in a field of goblin corpses, but 3 of their health bars are not full. Tier 3 or not, high mobility and attack power or not, they are melee units, and a head-on charge into fearless frenzied goblins inevitably bleeds. Then he remembers me, asking whether my turtle shell is still holding, whether the monsters have not smashed it yet, telling me to warn him in advance if I die so he can light some incense. His lackeys jump in to claim I am hiding under a table, asking what I plan to block them with. My head. I do not bother replying. The fight on my side is already nearly over. The last goblin drops from a tower's arrow onto the pile of its dead, and the battlefield falls silent. Nothing but wind across the grass. I check the clock. From the first goblin to the last, the whole thing took under 4 minutes. My territory completely unscathed. my 8 militiamen barely sweating, having only poked a few stragglers that wandered too close. The system congratulates me on resisting the first wave, hands my troops experience, and announces level ups, 5 of the 8 militia reaching level 2 with slightly raised attributes. Then the grand voice rolls across the whole endless continent again, announcing the first wave ended and settlement underway based on each lord's performance, the standard being monster tide clearance speed, and a golden leaderboard blooms before every set of eyes. My name sits at the very top, first place with a clearance under 4 minutes. Second is Wang Ho, nearly a minute slower. Below him a lord named Li Bi Wu holds third, a lord named Han Ri fourth. And far down at 35th sits Su Mumu, who barely scraped through. The area channel goes dead silent for a full 10 seconds. Everyone's staring at the name on top. Imbiam, first place. How? How is he faster than Wang Ho, who started with 5 tier 3 wolf cavalry? Then it boils over, people convinced their eyes are lying, certain I cheated, insisting the system made a mistake because there is no way I beat Ho Young. No one is more shocked than Wang Ho himself. Staring at the name pressing down on his eyes go red and he accuses me of cheating, demanding to know what trick I used. He cannot accept it. With a grade A talent and 5 tier 3 units, a god tier start, he was passed by a bookworm he saw as an ant, and it clearly feels worse to him than dying. I ignore his clamor because a far better moment has arrived. The system distributes the ranking rewards and congratulates me on first place. A blue resource chest, a random building blueprint chest, and a green recruitment edict, 3 golden lights flashing as the items settle into storage. I open the blue chest first, 3,000 wood, 1,500 stone, 200 iron ore, 200 gold coins, enough to push my defenses up a whole tier, and a new resource on top, gold coins, plainly high grade. I am rich. Next, the blueprint chest gives me a farmhouse, which on completion grants 5 peasants for 500 wood and 200 stone over 8 hours. Another perfectly timed gift. Then I turn to the last and most mysterious reward, a palm-sized green token marked with 2 words of ancient script, recruitment. The system names it a green recruitment edict, rare quality, which on use randomly recruits a green quality hero to serve me, the description reminding me that 1,000 soldiers are easy to find and a single general is hard. That heroes are the foundation of a lord's dominance. A hero, my breath quickens. This is a wholly different thing from a recruitment order which calls up mindless soldiers, where this summons a unique hero with wisdom and the potential to grow. A being whose value can outstrip an entire army. I never imagined the first night's trial would pay out something this precious. While I study the rewards, the channel's noise about me hits a fever pitch. Wang Ho's roars tangled with everyone's doubt and a few people's genuine shock. Su Mumu sends a private message calling me too amazing, telling me her single arrow tower and her 2 peasants as fodder barely killed her monsters before they reached the mansion, that she cannot imagine how I took first untouched. I smile and do not answer. I glance at the corpses and the broken clubs scattered across my ground, and when the system offers 10 minutes of cleanup to recycle some materials, I confirm. Better than nothing. That done, I turn back to the green recruitment edict and decide to see whether my A-rank talent can bend my luck toward a worthy hero. The crimson moonlight still covers the earth, but my territory has gone quiet again. Under my command, the peasants clear the field with care, dragging the goblin corpses off to be buried, gathering the tattered clubs and stone-bound weapons for firewood, the system recovering a handful of wood and stone. Better than nothing. My gaze settles on the soft green glow of the token, a hero, an existence countless times more precious than any truth type, a mind that can think and grow on its own and shape the whole development of a territory. I stop hesitating and use it, hoping for someone reliable. The token dissolves into a brilliant stream of green light that rises and coils in the open ground, before the Lord's mansion, condensing into a complex ancient runic circle, and as the light fades a figure forms at its center, out of nothing and slowly sharpens into focus. It is a young woman, perhaps 20, in a plain gray-white hemp robe edged with animal skins and feathers, her jet-black hair tied loosely with a bone hairpin, a wooden staff in her hand crowned with a cyan stone. Her figure is well-balanced, her skin a healthy wheat color, her features not stunning but pleasant, her eyes clear and calm with a thread of wariness toward the strange place she has woken into. She sees me on the mansion steps, freezes a moment, then steps forward, lays a hand over her chest, and bows, announcing that Snowsong has come in answer to my summons. I welcome her by name, quite satisfied. She suits my taste, no muscle-bound brute, and she carries herself with a calm I like, nothing loud about her. I open her panel at once. The system reads her as the hero Snowsong, green quality, level 1, her strength and constitution under a malicious, but her spirit and intelligence far ahead, a textbook magic-type hero, with health 45 and mana 70. Her talent is Wolf's Whisper, a green talent granting every wolf-type unit under my command a 10% boost to all attributes. Her first skill is Summon Wild Wolf, 20 mana to call a tier 1 wild wolf that fights until it dies, on a 1-day cooldown. Her second is Ice Thorn, 5 mana to condense a small spike that deals damage scaled to her spirit and applies a minor slow. The description names her an apprentice shaman from the northern wastes, who can speak in a basic way with the souls of beasts. Good attributes. The talent makes my eyes light up further. Wang Ho's talent is Berserk Charge, and his troops are wolf cavalry, and now a hero who buffs wolves has landed on my side. The legendary Fated counter, perhaps. I do not own a single wolf yet, but the potential is enormous. I order her to summon a wild wolf so I can see it, and she raises her staff, chants a few short obscure syllables, the cyan stone glowing faintly, a small summoning circle opening on the ground. A gray wild wolf, barely bigger than an ordinary dog, crawls out with a low howl, shakes its fur, and rubs affectionately against her calf. I check it, Tier 1, Level 1, squishier even than a militia, but with high agility. Its skills simply bite, the description calling it an excellent scout and cannon fodder. Not built for a stand-up fight, but a pro at scouting and harassment. And Snow Song's summon refreshes daily, which means as long as she lives I get a free piece of fodder every day. And if the fighting stays light, the wolves will survive and stack into a small pack. Combined with her talent, it is marvelous. I tell her it is very good, more than pleased with my first hero. With a hero in the ranks, my spirits run high. And I check the resource panel, my wealth suddenly substantial after the first place rewards. No staying idle. I open a construction list, find the farmhouse blueprint, and build it. The clang and hammer of work rolling through the territory again. The night passes without further trouble. The crimson moon fades, the first dawnlight pierces the dark, and a new day opens. For the vast majority of lords, the first night on the endless continent was a nightmare of blood and tears. On the area channel, after a night of dead silence, messages trickle back. Someone weeps that they are somehow still alive. Someone with 8 of 10 peasants dead and half a territory wrecked has no idea how to keep playing. Someone asks how many of us are even left. Soon people notice the channel's population has dropped by nearly a fifth from yesterday, which means 1 in 5 lords was erased in the night, and the cruelty of it sends a chill through every survivor. Wang Ho's messages return in the same arrogant tone, calling the night an appetizer, telling anyone who could not pass that little test that they deserve to die, ordering his Heavenly Wolf Alliance to check in and report losses. Dozens of them surface, relief and gratitude tangled together, Zhang Weary whimpering how scary the goblins were. Wang Ho tells them there is nothing to fear if they follow him, then turns to me again, asking whether I am still alive, whether the goblins have not picked my bones clean. Still chewing on being beaten in the rankings, he starts his needling first thing in the morning. I yawn and do not even look. I am up on the mansion roof planning the new day. A night of building finished 5 farmhouses, and 25 new peasants stand respectfully before them awaiting orders. 35 peasants in all now, which means another jump in gathering and construction speed. I split them, 15 onto stone, 20 onto logging, the day's goal to ring the entire territory in wooden walls, and they take the order and go, full of energy. Defense alone is not enough. I have to push out, learn the ground, find new resource points, so I call Snow Song over and form an exploration squad, her and 3 militia. I take a fairly intact goblin skin from storage, left from the cleanup, and a piece of charred charcoal, and draw a circle for the Lord's mansion, then a larger circle around it, telling them to explore north, south, east, and west, out to 5 kilometers for now. I tell them their mission is not to fight but to scout, turning serious, ordering them to record everything, terrain, water, monster dens, resource nodes, and draw it on the skin when they return. I stress safety first. A single Tier 1 monster they may try to handle, but more than 2, or anything that looks dangerous, and they are to retreat at once, no lingering in a fight. They understand. Snow Song bows again and leads the wolf and the militia carefully out, vanishing into the distant woods. Walls alone are not enough either. Defense needs layers. My gaze locks on a new structure, the hunting trap, 2 iron ore each, dealing a little damage to whatever steps on it, and crippling its movement speed. With arrow towers and walls, it is a perfect match. And the 200 iron ore from last night's reward will come in handy. I order 100 built first, to be laid in a ring outside the walls. Wang Ho, I hope you enjoy the gift I am preparing for you when you come. The territory hums with work, and thanks to my talent, 100 fresh hunting traps come together fast on minimal iron. The peasants set them in layers in the grass outside the walls, sparse on the outer ring, denser toward the wall, aimed precisely at the tower's blind spots. Any enemy charging in will enjoy a top-tier leg massage. Watching this young defensive line, my sense of security ticks up another notch. Snow Song's voice comes from behind, the exploration team ready, her leading a spirited wild wolf, flanked by 3 militiamen visibly sturdier since reaching level 2. I tell her well done, handing over the marked goblin skin, reminding her she is the eyes, not the fists, and that safety comes first. She wastes no words, takes the map, and slips into the eastern woods with her team. I turn back to development. Population is productivity. And with 35 peasants working at once, the territory outpaces yesterday by far. The wood and stone reserves climbing visibly. At ease, I open the area channel to see what others are doing and to slack off a moment. The survivors seem to have shaken off the worst of the terror and are arguing about how to develop. Wang Ho preaches that speed is king, bragging his wolf cavalry already scouted a 5-kilometer radius and found a small iron mine. Sneering at the idiots still chopping wood, his sycophants gushing that he found a vein while they fret over a few scraps. Past the usual flatterers, some interesting new faces show up. A lord named Ban Soyun is spamming the channel selling food. Fresh roasted wild rabbit at 5 units a portion for 50 wood or 25 stone. Plenty in stock, her talent gourmet giving her food a slight recovery effect. The message draws a crowd at once, since most people are still gnawing wild fruit and a cooked meal is sheer luxury. A lord named Im Hei complains that her prices are steep, 1 rabbit costing half a day's wood, and she fires back to buy it or do not, asking whether he can work on an empty stomach, claiming the friendship price is only because they share an area. I rub my chin. This Ban Soyeon has a head for business. Right after, someone with a stranger style pops up. A lord named Yang Yong-sin asking whether anyone captured a frenzied goblin alive last night, offering 50 stone for a live one because he wants to study what the crimson moon does to biological cells. The channel stalls for a few seconds. Someone asks if the man is insane, given that nobody can even run from those things fast enough, let alone catch one. Imhei respects the nerve but warns that the things go mad dog when their eyes turn red. Undeterred, Yang Yong-sin asks instead whether anyone will sell him a goblin corpse, fresh and undamaged, for an autopsy. And the channel goes quiet in a different way. I watch, amused. The world is vast and there is no shortage of strange birds, everyone adapting to this cruel place in their own peculiar way. Just then Snowsong's exploration team returns, her calm as ever, the 3 militiamen behind her barely able to hold in their excitement. She spreads the goblin skin map on the wooden table before me, the lone circle now ringed with new charcoal notations, and reports they explored about 10 kilometers east. 3 kilometers from the territory they found a small spring, the water very clear, the wild wolf drinking it without harm and actually growing more energetic. About a kilometer northeast of the spring sits a patch of scorched woodland where 7 or 8 red, pulsing gelatinous creatures are gathered around a piece of glowing black stone. Her expression flickers for the first time as she notes they did not attack, likely a neutral monster camp, harmless if left alone. I tell her she handled it well, not alerting them, and she nods and points to a heavily circled mark. The most crucial discovery, she says, is here. About 10 kilometers out in a straight line, they found traces of another territory. I perk up. They did not approach, she explains, only watched from a distant hillside. The core also a wooden lord's mansion with peasants moving, but no visible troops. The most conspicuous thing, a white cloth flag hanging from the mansion with a smiley face drawn on it. A smiley face flag. A grinning expression pops into my head, and I decide this neighbor has a whimsical streak. I press her to confirm the exact distance, and she answers very certain that it is 10 kilometers. The number drops me into deep thought. I had assumed that even inside one newbie zone, lords were scattered across distances that made finding each other like searching for a needle in a haystack. It seems I was wrong. 10 kilometers in a straight line, for a lord like Wang Ho with Tier 3 wolf cavalry, could be a full-speed raid covered in under half an hour. This newbie zone, I murmur to myself, is far smaller than I imagined. Or rather, it is not that the zone is small, but that the high-dimensional will deliberately packed every lord into a relatively dense band and stacked with the abundant resource points in neutral camps. I understand it all at once. This is no peaceful protection period for steady growth. It is a meticulously designed coliseum. Trap a pack of hungry beasts in a cage that is not quite big enough, then toss in a little limited food, and the outcome writes itself. Cooperation, annexation, or destruction. Wang Ho, I think, almost certain he is out there scouring his surroundings too, and the moment his range overlaps mine and he finds my territory, he will bring his troops at once. There is not much time left. I tell Snowsong well done, pulling my thoughts back, that her mission for the day is complete, and to go and rest. She answers and goes. Early on the 3rd morning, a string of system prompts wakes me, and I rub my eyes and climb out of the simple wooden bed in the Lord's mansion. My territory has run stably for 48 hours. The upgrade requirements for a level 2 Lord's mansion have unlocked, and Snowsong's summoned wild wolf has finished cooling down. Upgrade the mansion. Energy floods me and I open the construction panel, where a sparkling upgradable arrow now sits behind the Lord's Mansion icon. Level 2 needs 2,000 wood, 1,000 stone, and 100 gold over 12 hours. I check my reserves, which after last night's reward and a full day of peasant labor far exceed what the upgrade asks, and I confirm. A soft light wraps the wooden mansion, a huge countdown opening in my vision toward the 12-hour mark. During the upgrade, every building tied to the mansion's level can neither be built nor improved, so defensive construction stalls and the territory goes idle. I cannot just sit around. I touch my empty stomach and bite a sour wild fruit that sets my teeth aching, then open the area channel, where that gourmet Ban Soyeon is still hawking roasted rabbit at firm and even rising prices. A crowd below calls her a black-hearted merchant while some still pinch their noses in trade. A meal for half a day of my development time, I think. Keep dreaming. Better to rely on yourself than on others. And a man who does his own work eats and dresses well. Hiding in the territory forever is no answer either, so I head down the mansion steps and call Snowsong. She walks out of the farmhouse shadows with her wild wolf, both of them rested and bright, and I have her summon another, a second identical wolf crawling from the circle, the two gathering to sniff each other. I nod, then call all 8 militia over and tell them we are to hunt that day. 3 of them stay behind to lead the peasants on gathering. The rest come with me. I am leading this team myself, partly for safety, partly because I want to see this world with my own eyes. With Snowsong, the militia, and the wolves, I form a small hunting party and head west, the one direction we did not scout yesterday. West of the territory, the forest grows dense, sunlight filtering through layered leaves to scatter mottled light across the ground. The 2 wolves move nimbly, noses working the air, perfect scouts, and then Snowsong whispers that she has found something ahead, the lead wolf stopping to bare its fangs at a bush with a low whimper in its throat. I halt the team at once and signal the militia into a defensive stance, gripping their spears, and a militiaman eases the bushes aside. Behind them, a large wild boar with 2 sharp tusks roots in the earth, hunting for food. The system reads it out. A tusked wild boar, Tier 2, Level 3, Health 130, Strength 24. Its skill Savage Charge, the description warning that its tusks pierce crude leather armor with ease. A Tier 2 creature, far worse than last night's frenzied goblins, which were merely mini while individually weak. This boar's build and stats announce a tough opponent, and with my malicious strength and stamina hovering around 10, a head-on fight would be a suicide run. I ask Snowsong whether she is confident. She analyzes it coolly, that its strength and defense are high but its speed is not, and that we can use that. I tell her good, that we do it her way, the plan already forming. She and the wolves handle harassment, Ice Thorn to slow it, while the militia avoid the head-on clash and only strike its belly and hind legs from the flank once it is slowed. They answer, and the fight is on. At my order, the 2 wolves lunge at the boar from left and right like loosed arrows, and the boar, never expecting an ambush, startles, then bellows in rage and lowers its head to unleash Savage Charge at one of them. An ice blue light strikes its front leg, Snowsong's Ice Thorn, and the charge stalls, the boar stumbling, its momentum broken. I shout at them to attack now, and the militia find their nerve and rush from cover, driving their spears at the soft belly, 3 of 5 finding flesh. The agony drives the boar fully berserk, and it whips its head, its tusks flinging one militiaman through the air. He screams and slams to the ground meters away, his leather torn open, blood running freely, the system reporting him severely injured and out of the fight. 1 man down in a single exchange, and the remaining 4 go pale, their formation fraying. I tell them not to panic, my voice a calming pill, to keep their distance, since it is almost finished. Snowsong raises her staff and fires another Ice Thorn, this time into the boar's eye, and with its vision ruined, it can only spin in frantic circles, the 2 wolves seizing the moment to clamp down on its hind legs. I roar at them to stab its neck, and the 4 militia recover their courage, circle to the side, and drive their spears with all their strength into the thick neck. This time the spears sink deep into the vital point, and the massive body thrashes a few times before crashing down, blood staining the ground beneath it red. The system congratulates me on killing the Tier 2 tusked wild boar, grants Snowsong experience, and levels 2 of the 5 militia who fought. I breathe out and run to the injured man to check his wounds, and fortunately it is a flesh wound that missed anything vital. Though he will be out of fighting for a while. At least it was not for nothing, I think, looking at the carcass with a smile. I harvest it, the system handing me 150 wild boar meat, 1 wild boar hide, and 2 wild boar tusks, a bumper haul. 150 meat will feed my 40-odd people for days, and the hide and tusks are excellent materials sure to be useful later. As everyone prepares to process the loot and head back, the wolf on guard lets out an uneasy growl at the spot where the boar fell. I ask what it is, going alert, and Snowsong walks over, soothes the wolf and points to a patch of dense ferns the boar's body had crushed, saying there seems to be something there. I have 2 militia laboriously drag the carcass aside, and pushing the ferns apart, the sight on the ground stuns everyone. It is no chest, no glowing ore. It is a skeleton long since rotted, the shape of the bones and the tattered hemp clothes marking it human, very likely a native of this world, curled in a fetal position. A poor soul who died in the boar's den, with some story behind it. I glance at the remains and tell the militia to bury him, and they answer. We carry the heavy pork, support the wounded man, and set off home. It is afternoon when we return. The mansions upgrade past the halfway mark, and when the peasants see their lord hauling back so huge a boar, the whole territory erupts. Meat, they cry, praising the Lord, and I wave a hand and announce grandly that tonight we feast on roast pork. Night falls, a roaring bonfire lit in the territory's center, great slabs of pork sizzling over the flame, the rich smell of meat filling the air until everyone is swallowing hard. I get the largest piece, the leg, and imitating the scenes from television, I crush some wild fruit over it for juice, then take a bite. It is old and tough, nothing but salt, with a faint earthy fishy edge, and I chew it expressionless, glancing at the peasants and militia beside me eating with grease running down their chins. Forget it. Having something to eat is good enough. Gnawing the unappetizing roast, I open the area channel out of habit, and it is wailing everywhere. Ban Soyun hawks her last 3 portions of rabbit and threatens a price hike tomorrow. Wang Ho curses and asks who knows where a stable food source is because his wolf cavalry cannot chew bark forever. And Su Mumu whimpers that she has gone hungry another day and begs anyone to trade her food for stone. Reading it, I take another silent bite of the boar leg in my hand. Delicious. The well-fed peasants and militia drop into deep, satisfied sleep, but I do not rest, standing alone before the Lord's mansion. My eyes fixed on the ball of light wrapping the little house, a huge countdown ticking down in my view. When the last seconds fall, the system announces the mansion has reached level 2, and the soft ball of light contracts and merges into the building. The crude wooden hut transforms before my eyes, the foundation firming, the walls thickening, the thatched roof replaced by neat wooden shingles, until at last it looks like a mansion rather than a shack that would fall over at a poke. I cannot wait to open the build list where a row of new icons lights up. Farmland, logging camp, and quarry are all resource buildings that raise the gathering speed of specific resources but require peasants assigned to work them, so there is no rush. My gaze settles instead on an icon of a tattered tent. It is a refugee camp, a shelter for wanderers that every week randomly refreshes between 1 and 14 recruitable Tier 1 units, the count rising with the camp's level. The description hints I might find some not-so-normal helpers here. The cost 1,000 wood and 500 stone over 8 hours. Refreshes weekly. My eyes light up. This is practically a stable generator of military force, and though they are only Tier 1 and the quantity is random, it is the only sustainable source of troops I have seen besides the recruitment order. This is it, I think, and confirm. The 2 peasants on watch spring into action on an empty plot near the mansion, and with that settled I yawn and return to the now roomier Lord's mansion, and fall into deep sleep. The next morning a burst of noise wakes me, a peasant calling through the door for me to come quickly and look at the strange new house. I step out to find a few brave peasants and militia already gathered before the refugee camp, pointing and gesturing. The building is a giant tent of animal skins and old boards with a dim oil lamp at the entrance, giving off a chill, eerie air even in broad daylight. The system reports the refugee camp at level 1 complete, and this week's units refreshed. I ignore the chatter and walk straight up, reaching out to touch the weathered door, and a recruitment interface pops open. The recruitable units this week, with nearly 7 days until the next refresh, are skeletons. Tier 1, 12 available at 8 gold coins each. Skeletons. I pause, then open the details. Tier 1, level 1. Health only 25, weak across the board, but with 2 skills. Ashen Heart makes them immune to all mental charm and fear effects, and Fearless of Death fixes their morale at neutral so it never breaks and never soars. The description names them tireless cannon fodder awakened by low-quality necromancy that, by the way, do not need to eat. These attributes are just too trashy, I cannot help complaining. 25 health is 10 under a goblin. Their strength and agility worse too, the glass cannons of glass cannons, probably unable to survive a single bore charge. The only upsides are those 2 skills, immunity to mind control and constant morale, which makes them absolutely loyal soldiers who will never run. And combined with not needing to eat, they are consumables tailor-made for war. But the cost is brutal, 8 gold coins each, 96 for all 12. My first place reward was only 200 gold total. 100 went into the mansion upgrade, and 100 is all I have left, so this one wave would nearly bankrupt me. Gold is plainly hard currency with scarce sources, and a steady supply likely means finding and holding a special node, like a gold mine. Is it worth dumping nearly everything on a pile of skeletons with these pathetic stats? I fall into a dilemma. If I do not recruit them, the territory has no mobile force it can spend at will, and I cannot keep risking my precious militia and Snowsong on every outing, since losing even one militiaman would gnaw at me for a long time. But if I do recruit, and a better unit refreshes next week with no money left to buy it, that is a huge loss too. I look at my 8 militia, then at Snowsong and her wolf in the distance. My force is still too small. One more boar yesterday and my squad might have taken real deaths. Wang Ho's wolf cavalry are Tier 3, and my militia are Tier 1, and a direct clash would be an egg against a rock. To beat him, I need enough fodder to grind his cavalry down and open space for my towers, and my hero to do the damage. My gaze hardens. I will bet on it, I decide. Cannon fodder are still soldiers, and it is good to have something that can take a hit at the critical moment. I select the maximum and recruit all 12 skeletons, confirming the 96 gold, my count dropping from 100 to 4 in an instant. The weathered door creaks open and a plume of black mist surges out, the watching peasants and militia backing away in fear. With the harsh grind of bones, 12 skeletons emerge from the mist, rusted iron swords in hand, 2 points of ghostly blue soul fire burning in their sockets, walking on stiff steps. They form 2 rows before me, thrust their swords into the ground in unison, and kneel on one knee in perfect time. The peasants whisper in terror, asking what kind of monsters these are, saying the Lord has summoned the undead, asking whether they will be killed, even the militia gripping their spears tense and wary. I call for quiet, my voice cutting through it all, and I walk between the skeletons and the peasants and turn to face my original subjects. I ask whether they are afraid, and they nod without thinking. I tell them, calm, that I understand their fear, but that from this day on these are also members of our territory. I point at the motionless skeletons and tell them these are my soldiers, warriors summoned to protect them and defend this place. They need no food and no sleep. I say, they are tireless and unafraid of death, and they will be our sturdiest shield against whatever lurks in the dark. From now on, I tell them, the nightly patrols and guard duty fall to the skeletons, and everyone can sleep soundly. The peasants glance at one another, the fear giving way to confusion and a creeping reassurance. Because it is true, frightening as the skeletons look, they will not fight over food and can keep everyone safe, which makes them, thought about that way, not so hard to accept. I finish by telling them the skeletons are my subjects, the same as they are, and that I will allow no discrimination and no infighting in this territory, and I ask whether they all understand. They answer as one, voices still a little thin, but the initial panic gone. I nod, satisfied. My brainwashing, my ideological work, is going quite well. I turn to the 12 and give my first command, to patrol the perimeter wall in pairs, and they rise without a sound and head off in different directions on uniform steps, moving in silence but for the faint clash of bone. I stand at the mansion entrance, watching the 12 skeletons patrol the perimeter in stiff but orderly steps, silence save for the clack of colliding bone, blending into the morning's calm. This is more worry-free than keeping 12 guard dogs which need feeding and bark all night, where skeletons are so much better, clean and efficient. I walk to a farmhouse where Sun Ji, the militiaman the boar flung yesterday, leans against a wall and works his shoulder with a grimace. I ask how he is, and he snaps upright and thumps his chest, insisting he is fine. It only hurts a little, no big deal. I look at the gash on his chest, where the tusk wound has already scabbed and healed far faster than I expected. The humans of this world seem to carry much tougher bodies than those on Blue Star. Even so, I shake my head and tell him to stay behind today and guard the territory until the wound fully closes. He says anxiously that he can still fight, and I tell him this is an order, that I need soldiers who can give a full effort, not warriors walking into battle wounded, and that we are not so rushed for this one fight. He lowers his head and stops arguing. With the wounded man settled, I call Snowsong and the other 7 militia together. I tell them the last 2 days of scouting were valuable, but that today we need sharper intelligence. I take out the goblin skin map and point to a blank stretch north. I tell her that she leads today, the target due north, the same 10-kilometer straight line, to see whether a territory sits there too. She says she understands, that I want to confirm the distribution pattern between lords, and I tell her exactly, nodding in approval, because talking to smart people saves so much effort. I add that if there is time, she should confirm south as well, the same as before, reconnaissance first, safety first, and retreat at once at anything suspicious. She understands, and soon she leads 3 wild wolves and 7 energetic militia into the northern woods. With the exploration team off, I turn to the grand work of construction, unwilling to miss any of the new buildings the level 2 mansion unlocked. I open the list and make a sweeping pass, building farmland for 600 wood and 300 stone, the logging camp for 800 wood and 400 stone, the quarry for 500 wood and 1,000 stone, ordering them all. The silhouettes of 3 resource buildings rise from the vacant outskirts, and the waiting peasants rush in with their tools, clattering to work. These greatly raise the gathering speed of specific resources and are the foundation of territorial development. Productivity alone is not enough. The population has to keep pace, so I turn back to the farmhouses. The cap at level 2 is 10, and I built only 5 before, so I build 5 more for 750 wood and 375 stone, and a large chunk of my reserves vanishes in an instant. Watching the numbers fall, I feel no pang. Resources left alone are dead objects, and only by turning them into the territory's strength do they become true wealth. With all that done, progress bars stand everywhere. The territory a picture of prosperity. I pull up a small wooden stool, sit at the mansion entrance, spread the increasingly detailed goblin skin map over my lap, and sketch with the charcoal. There is a neighbor 10 kilometers east, I think, and most likely north and south as well. West is the boar forest. No people found there yet. The territory has expanded, and the original 3 arrow towers in their triangle no longer cover enough fire, while the new logging camp and quarry sit on the outskirts, so I have to enclose them with fresh walls and post defensive towers nearby. Before I know it, it is noon. Then a rapid grind of bone interrupts my thoughts, and I look up to see a skeleton from the eastern patrol running toward me far faster than usual. It cannot speak, but the soul fire thrashing in its socket sends a clear alarm, so I drop the map, stand, and stride to the mansion roof for the wide view east. In the direction the skeleton points, at the edge of the woods about a kilometer east, several strange figures peek around shiftily, upper bodies robust and human with bronze skin and knotted muscle, lower bodies the agile frames of horses, centaurs. I remember Snowsong's report at once, the smiley flag neighbor 10 kilometers east. These centaurs move with discipline, nothing like brainless wild monsters. They are observing my territory. We have guests, I whisper. Then order the alarm sounded, and everyone but the building peasants into the Lord's mansion. The bell rings out piercing across the territory, the gathering peasants dropping their work and bolting for the mansion in a panic. The phantom archers atop the 3 towers drawing their longbows, arrows gleaming cold. In an instant, the whole place flips from peaceful production to taut combat readiness. Then a man walks out of the eastern woods with his hands raised high, waving a tattered scrap of white cloth he tore from somewhere as if terrified he will not be seen. He comes slowly and carefully and stops about 120 meters from the wall, just outside a basic arrow tower's range for most newbie lords. A relatively safe distance for negotiation. I stand behind the wall watching him. He pulls a megaphone of rolled sheet metal from behind his back, lifts it to his mouth, draws a deep breath, and shouts with everything he has that he is a friend, that he means no harm, that he has come to negotiate. Negotiation, I mutter to myself. I trust no one because in this unfamiliar world any living person could be an enemy. But he holds a white flag and stopped at a safe distance, which is sincerity enough, and refusing to even talk would only make me look small-minded. I tell the few skeletons beside me to follow me, the soul fires in the fresh bony frames flickering as they fall in on stiff strides, and I walk out through the gap in the wall flanked by 4 silent undead. I stop about 5 meters from the man, a distance that keeps me safe while pressing on him, and I ask what he wants to talk about. He looks to be in his early 20s and seems calm as he lowers the tin megaphone, his gaze lingering a moment on the skeletons behind me. He wants to cooperate, he says straightforwardly, to trade what each of us has, even to form an offensive and defensive alliance, or at the very least to stay out of each other's way, to define boundaries and sign a non-aggression treaty. I counter the word cooperate, asking why he does not go to Wang Ho instead, who has tier 3 troops, a grade A talent, and real power, whether it would not be safer to ally with him. He says that speaking of Wang Ho, he can guess I must be Mbiom. I ask how he knows, and he answers that he will introduce himself first, that his name is Gang Jin. I search the name in my memory and find it. Right, in the area rankings on the night of the Crimson Moon, this Gang Jin placed 6th. No simple character. He goes on, he scouted my area on the 2nd day, saw my 3 wooden arrow towers and that dense perimeter wall, and deduced I was likely the Mbiom who ranked first during the Crimson Moon. After a pause, his eyes sweep my already substantial defenses, and he says that in defensive operations my arrow towers are far more useful than Wang Ho's wolf cavalry. Wang Ho is arrogant and conceited, he says, and tier 3 troops and a grade A talent or not, he will bring about his own ruin sooner or later. His tone drips contempt at the name, then shifts, and he says with a hint of pride that his own blade is not exactly dull either. He tilts his head toward the woods behind him, and several half-human, half-horse figures emerge, tall and muscular, holding spears, faces solemn. He recruited 9 tier 2 centaur spearmen at the start, he says steadily, and in overall combat power they are not necessarily beneath Wang Ho's 5 wolf cavalry. Tier 2 troops. My gaze falls on the centaurs, the system's observation function kicking in to read them out. Centaur spearmen, tier 2, level 2, health 110, strength 22, agility 18, the description naming them excellent warriors of the plains who carry both flexibility and impact. Quite good. Their health and strength roughly match the tier 2 boars I hunted. Their agility markedly higher, a force to be reckoned with. A new pressure rises in me. First Wang Ho's tier 3 wolf cavalry, now Gang Jin's tier 2 centaurs. Why does it feel like everyone else started with elite units, when all I have are a handful of negligible tier 1 militia, and a batch of skeletons that rank low even among tier 1 fodder, things a strong wind could scatter? The gap is simply too large. But then I glance back at the arrow towers and thick walls behind me, and think of the hundreds of hunting traps buried in the grass, and my confidence returns. Gang Jin's centaurs are strong, but they are still flesh and blood. To attack my territory, they would first have to charge through the trap zone, endure the volleys of 3 wooden arrow towers, and finally meet my sturdy walls. And by the time they reach the skeletons and militia, how much would be left of them? This Gang Jin is smart, having calculated that a forced assault costs too much, which is exactly why he chose to negotiate. I finally tell him I agree to his proposal in principle. A peaceful neighbor beats a predatory enemy, especially with a larger threat like Wang Ho looming. I say we can define a boundary and stay off each other's ground, pointing toward a winding creek about halfway between our territories, proposing it as the line, the east bank his range of activity, the west bank mine. As for deeper cooperation, we see how things go, and can reach each other by private message anytime. I am not foolish enough to fully trust a stranger, and a verbal agreement built on mutual wariness is the most sincerity I can offer for now. Gang Jin thinks a moment and nods, saying fine, it is a deal, the result well within his expectations, since trust takes time and a defined boundary is a good start. He says he will take his leave then, waving his hand, and the centaurs turn at once, and he nods to me before following them. I watch them go, then order 2 skeletons to follow and confirm they have gone far enough before returning. Back in the Lord's mansion, I digest what I just learned. This world grows more interesting by the day, because not everyone is as foolish as Wang Ho, and this Gang Jin is clearly someone who plans before he acts. A potential ally or a more dangerous enemy. Only time will tell. Just as I sit down to redraw my defensive blueprints, the area channel floods with messages. The speaker Wang Ho again. He announces a major discovery, that after relentless exploration, his wolf cavalry can basically confirm a pattern, that in our newbie area, except for the unlucky ones dropped on the outskirts, every lord has a neighbor about 10 kilometers away in all 4 directions. The channel erupts, Jiang Wei crowing that Boss Hao actually figured this out, Zhou Riri fretting that this means she is surrounded, Ban So Yun realizing it explains the shadow of someone else's territory she glimpsed while sending peasants for firewood, which scared her right back home. My eyes narrow. Just as I thought. Gang Jin came from 10 kilometers east, and Wang Ho's announcement confirms the suspicion perfectly. This so-called newbie continent is a carefully designed coliseum. It also means Snow Song's southward push is no longer necessary, since there is almost certainly another lord that way. Wang Ho savors the spotlight and sends a long message, telling everyone not to panic, claiming the pattern only proves the importance of his Heavenly Wolf alliance. Since we all come from the same city, we should unite, he says, because fighting alone only gets you picked off one by monsters and people with ill intent. He earnestly advises everyone again to join and submit to his unified command, insisting that only by pooling resources and concentrating strength can we survive this hellhole, that he will lead everyone to glory. They should stop hesitating, he warns, because the world outside will only grow more dangerous, and by then it will be too late to cling to someone powerful. His speech runs impassioned, casting himself as the area's savior. I close the channel. How ridiculous. Follow his unified command. It sounds noble, but all he wants is everyone's resources handed over and everyone's bodies spent as his fodder. Just then, the 2 skeletons I sent out return. Mission accomplished. Gang Jin gone back to his own territory. Surrounded on all sides, I think. What a headache. I wake in the morning, pick up a strip of wood out of habit, and carve the 7th notch into it with a small knife. 7 days. In 1 week, my territory has changed beyond recognition. Snow Song's exploration team has combed the whole stretch within 10 kilometers of home. Every resource node, every wild monster den, every water source marked in crooked charcoal across that ever blacker goblin skin map. The defenses have climbed a full tier 2, 4 fresh wooden arrow towers raised on the perimeter to lock with the original 3 into a crossfire net that blankets every inch of the place. The level 2 Lord's Mansion also unlocked a new structure, the wooden fence, 8 wood and 4 minutes per meter. Its durability is pathetic, barely worth calling an obstacle, but it is cheap, only 2/5 the cost and time of a wooden wall, following the principle of digging the tunnels deep and storing the grain wide. I have the peasants ring a sparse line of fence outside the sturdy walls, with 2 layers of barrier, 7 arrow towers, and hundreds of hunting traps salted through the grass. Even if my territory is not quite an iron fortress, I will settle for impregnable. Snow Song has been handing me 1 wild wolf a day, steady as clockwork, and I have 6 of them now. Counting them, the 8 militia, and the 12 skeletons, that is 26 tier 1 units, with the hero Snow Song over the top. Watching the skeletons patrol the line and the wolves nap in the shade of a farmhouse, I feel for the first time that my forces have grown into something with teeth. I have lain low for 6 days. Time to stretch my legs and turn all those red marks on the map into resources in my warehouse. I give the order to assemble, and the soldiers scattered across their posts gather in front of the Lord's mansion at once. 8 militia, 12 skeletons, 6 wild wolves, and Snow Song. I tell Li Sa and Wang O to stay behind and keep the peasants reinforcing the outer wall, and order everyone else to follow me. A man never leaves home with no cards in his hand, because if my base gets raided while I am gone, I will have nowhere to cry. They answer as one, and the column marches grandly south out of the territory. The first target is a wild monster camp Snow Song scouted a few days back, a cluster of red gelatinous things squatting in a scorched stretch of woodland. She points across the blackened earth and tells me it is just ahead. I halt the team and slip behind a wide tree to look. In the clearing, 5 red slimes the size of water vats wriggle slowly around a black stone that still gives off heat, their bodies sparking with stray flame. The system reads them out as fire slimes. Tier 1. Health 65, but strength and agility both painfully low, low-grade fire element creatures that move like sludge. Plenty of health, no speed, no punch. Perfect sparring partners to drill my ragtag army and sharpen my micromanagement. A plan snaps together in my head the moment I count them. I send the skeletons charging in from the front, order the militia to fan out left and right and strike with their spears without closing the distance, and tell Snow Song to roam with the wolves and cover the line with Ice Thorn. The 12 skeletons step off in silence and march straight into the slimes. The fire slimes spot the intruders and spit a scatter of little fireballs that burst against the bony frames, sparks flying, scorch marks blooming, and the damage numbers crawl up at 2 and 3 a hit. Is this a massage? The skeletons may be brittle, but the slimes deal even less, and worse for them, they never think to concentrate fire on a single skeleton. The skeletons shrug off the burns and bring their rusty swords down hard on the jelly bodies, blades sinking in, lava-colored fluid splashing out. I send the militia in, and 6 of them flank from both wings, spears punching clean through, the puncture wounds far harder for a slime to heal than a slash. Snowsong loses the wolves, and the 6 of them flicker across the field like ghosts, never closing on the slimes, just nipping and harassing to pull their attention. Then a streak of icy blue light cuts the air and lands square on the largest fire slime, Snowsong's ice thorn. Ice meeting fire with a shriek and a cloud of white steam. Frost crusts over the slime, its sluggish movements crawling slower still, and a bright red 25 floats up off it. Super effective. I tell her well done, to keep going and freeze a lot of them into popsicles. With the tactics this clean, the fight turns into bookkeeping. Skeletons soaking the front, militia and wolves bleeding the flanks. Snowsong parked like a turret, dropping an ice thorn whenever it counts. In under 5 minutes, all 8 fire slimes are reduced to puddles of dull cooling gel. My side comes through untouched, but for a few skeletons whose bones are a little soot-stained. The system hands me a gray resource chest and I step over, kick the gel pile and crack it open. 150 wood and 100 stone. My face falls. I mobilized the whole army and marched all this way for spoils that do not even cover the fuel. Still, better than nothing. And I came to train the troops and practice my command anyway, so the scraps are a bonus. I tell them we are moving on, and lead the team deeper south. The slimes were the appetizer. The real prize is still ahead. After another 2 kilometers, we reach the foot of a cliff, where a pitch-black cave mouth opens. Not large, a soft white light leaking faintly from inside. A white crystal mine. My eyes light up. I have felt firsthand what the illumination lighthouse does. A sun planted in the dark, an enormous cushion of safety through the night. If I can take this mine and pull a steady stream of white crystal out of it, I can turn my whole territory into a city that never sleeps. But before the meet, the guard dogs. Snowsongs reports that a large pack of goblins nests in this cave. I leave the main force at a distance and creep up to the entrance with Snowsong and 2 wolves, then duck behind a boulder and peer out. Inside the mouth and out, green-skinned monsters cluster everywhere, some grinding stone tools, some brawling, a few hunched around a fire roasting something I cannot name, the air thick with the smell of char. The system reads them as goblins, tier 1, but these carry a suffix the earlier ones lacked. Their attributes nudged higher, strength 8, agility 9. I count 16 in plain sight, with no telling how many more wait deeper in. Snowsong whispers that there are too many, that a frontal assault could cost me skeletons. I nod, because I am already thinking the same. 26 units against these goblins, I can win that. But at what price? The militia are thick-hided, and a wound heals after a day or 2 of rest. A dead wolf, Snowsong summons a fresh one tomorrow. The 12 skeletons are another matter. 8 gold coins apiece, 96 gold sunk into them, and my heart would bleed to lose even one. Those low health frames so flimsy that one crude club opens a hole, and a few more shatter them outright. Trade half my assets for a single mine, and that is a ruinous deal. Only a reckless idiot like Wang Ho picks a head-on brawl. I am the king of the cautious path, and I scheme until I crush the enemy without taking a scratch. My eyes track back and forth between the goblins at the mouth and the lay of the land, and then it comes to me. A simple, shameless little plan takes shape. I pull Snowsong close, drop my voice and point at the green skins loitering near the entrance. I tell her to send her 2 wolves in to nip them once and bolt, to lure them toward us. No lingering in the fight, just bait and run. She answers that she understands. I lead the main force in a quiet 200-meter retreat into a denser patch of trees. I set the skeletons in ambush at the front, ordering them to wait until the goblins close inside 100 meters, then burst out and tie them up. I split the militia into 2 wings to flank and stab the flanks and backs, and I tell Snowsong to take a high spot and shoot freely, picking off anything fast or oversized first. A simple pocket trap set in a handful of words. The 12 skeletons lie flat and silent in the grass, a few pale bones showing through, and the 6 militia grip their spears behind thick trunks, palms slick. Everything is ready, and I signal Snowsong. She whimpers low to the 2 wolves, and the gray shapes shoot out of the woods, skimming the ground straight for the mine mouth where several goblins doze against the stone. One wolf lunges and sinks its teeth into a goblin's rear, and the thing leaps up screaming. The other is craftier, clamping a goblin's wooden club in its jaws, yanking hard and wheeling away in instant retreat. The goblins erupt into chaos, 4 or 5 of them snatching up clubs and tearing after the wolves on stubby legs. No formation at all, blind with rage, never noticing the wolves are leading them straight at the silent trees. They are coming, I think, and the wolves dive into the woods, slip neatly around a big trunk, and vanish, leaving the 5 goblins to blunder right into the encirclement I built for them. I give the order, and the 12 skeletons rear up out of the grass, soul fire flaring in their sockets, and slam into the goblins before the monsters can even register the turn. The skeletons know no fine technique and fear no death, and they pin the enemy fast with bone and rust and iron. The goblins hammer back with their clubs, dull thuds, the damage numbers ticking up at 4 and 5, and I wince to see my soldiers taking hits. I shout at them that those are 8 gold coins each, so go easier on them. The instant the goblins are tangled, the 6 militia burst from both wings and drive their spears into sides and backs, dark green blood spraying, the goblins shrieking and twisting only to find the skeletons holding them in place. It becomes a one-sided slaughter. An ice thorn flies from the high ground and punches the knee of a goblin warrior trying to rally, dropping it to a kneel, and 2 militia swarm in and riddle it. In under a minute, all 5 goblins lie dead in the blood, and my only casualty is 1 skeleton with a cracked rib, wobbling comically. I snap my fingers, tell them to clear the field and ready the second round. Plan successful, and it is the most efficient and safest way to farm a camp there is. We run it again. Snowsong sends the 2 well-drilled wolves up for another lap of stunt driving, and this time the goblins are warier. The wolves do not close, only scratch at the dirt near the mouth and let out a taunting howl now and then, until 6 more goblins lose patience and rush out roaring. The result is the same, lured into my death grove and ground to pieces between skeletons and militia. I have tasted blood now and mean to bait out every last goblin at the entrance. But on the 3rd pass, the script breaks. The remaining goblins, still agitated, only hover at the opening, eyeing the wolves and refusing to give chase. And one of them turns and barks a rapid string of chatter into the dark of the cave. They got smarter. Is it calling for backup? Sure enough, a few seconds later, a figure noticeably larger shuffles out, half again as tall as a normal goblin. Dark green skin over knotted muscle, a beast skull helmet on its head and a polished stone axe in its fist. The system names it a Goblin Warrior. Tier 2, Health 100, Strength 20. Its skill Rally, which lifts the morale of nearby goblins. An elite that has survived countless fights and learned to command. A Tier 2 unit, and my face hardens. The moment it appears, the 7 or 8 surviving goblins find their nerve, falling in behind it into a crooked defensive line, weapons leveled outward. They are not coming out. The deal is off, I mutter, the snake refusing to leave its hole. Now the choice is mine. Abandon the mine and come back stronger. Or bite this hard bone now. I weigh 12 skeletons, 6 militia, 6 wolves against that goblin warrior. A frontal charge wins, probably, but at a price I do not want to pay, and I will not throw myself into a losing venture. My eyes move between my troops and the dense goblin knot crowded at the mouth. The skeletons are fragile, but they own one decisive virtue. They do not fear death. A grim resolve settles in me. I tell Snowsong to listen, and she answers that she is here. On my signal, the skeletons charge, not to kill but to break the formation, to pry the enemy apart, and the instant they move, she drops Ice Thorn on the goblin warrior to slow it. The militia and wolves follow on the flanks, ignoring the small fry and focusing every blow on the big one. I tell them to kill the leader first, since once the Tier 2 warrior falls, the rest scatter like loose sand. They understand, the militia roaring with vigor, the skeletons lifting their heads in unison. I call the total assault and bring my hand down. The 12 skeletons hurl themselves at the cave mouth 100 meters off, a single straight line. Speed building, the clash of running bone fused into one unbroken roar of momentum. The goblin warrior clearly never expected to be attacked and rears back with its axe, bellowing, the goblins behind it shrieking. A heartbeat before the lines collide. An ice blue ray strikes first, burying itself in the warrior's raised right leg. Its charge stalls, momentum shattered, something almost like confusion crossing its face. Right then, the skeleton wall crashes into the goblin's brittle line with no screams, only splintering bone and tearing flesh, and the lead skeleton is smashed to fragments on impact, its blue soul fire snuffed in the air. My heart bleeds. 8 gold coins gone like that. But the sacrifice buys the breach, the dense goblin formation ripped wide by that fearless charge. I send in the wolves and the militia. The 6 wolves pour through the gap the skeletons tore, straight at the slowed goblin warrior, the militia close behind, spears swinging at the scattered regulars, and the field boils over. The warrior is no joke, sweeping its stone axe in a flat arc that hurls one wolf flying, but the other 5 clamp onto its limbs and back, and Snowsong's second ice thorn lands on its neck. A militiaman seizes the opening and throws his spear with everything he has, the shaft arcing through the air to drive deep into the warrior's back, and the great body crashes down with a final unwilling roar. With the leader dead, the rest dissolve into screaming panic, scattering, only to find their escape sealed off by the silent skeletons. The battle ends fast. I walk onto the field, the air heavy with blood and scorched bone, and tally the cost. 2 skeletons killed, 2 badly hurt, 16 gold coins down, 1 wolf dead, replaceable tomorrow, 2 militia lightly wounded, nothing serious. It aches, I think, pressing a hand to my chest, but it was worth it. I lift my eyes to the dark mouth still breathing soft white light. White crystal mine, here I come. I stride into the cave, the air damp and earthy, thick veins of white crystal snaking through the walls and casting a glow bright enough to make torches pointless. The moment I reach the center, the system sounds in my mind, congratulating me on occupying a special resource point, the miniature white crystal mine. And because it is my first mine, it hands me an extra reward, the blueprint for a miner's hut. Then it tells me the construction rules have changed, that I can now raise resource gathering and defensive buildings within a range around any occupied resource point. The string of notices lights a fire under me, and I open the mine's details. Reserves of 200, mined by dispatching miner units, every 5 miners pulling 1 unit of white crystal a day, capped at 3 units daily. The vein flagged as a key material for advanced magical buildings and items. Miners, another new unit. Peasants cannot dig here, only specialized miners, and at 5 miners per unit with a daily cap of 3, I will need a full 15 miners to max it out. I open the fresh blueprint, the miner's hut 400 wood and 400 stone over 6 hours, each finished hut giving 5 miners. 1 hut for 5, so 3 huts to top out production. The third notice matters most though, the right to build around the resource point, which means I can plant a whole outpost here, a fortress that mines and defends in one. The strategic weight of that dwarfs the mine itself. A place pulled 4 ways is not necessarily a curse, I think, looking at my central spot on the map, and a bold design forms. I will forge my territory into a war fortress, webbed with satellite holds and outposts, and this white crystal mine will be the first stronghold. I turn and tell Snowsong to race straight home, to have the peasants ready wood and stone, pick 20 of them, load supplies and rush back here as fast as their legs allow. She asks nothing, takes her wolf, and sprints off the way we came. I set the rest of the troops to clearing the field, and I crouch to gather the intact bones from the 2 shattered skeletons by hand. The system tells me recovered bones can repair other skeletons or serve as undead building material. Recyclable too. Worthy of being an eco-friendly unit, I think, my mood lifting. I post the 10 remaining skeletons and 6 militia to guard the cave mouth, then sit on a rock and start sketching the outpost in my head. 3 miners' huts deep inside for safety, at least 2 arrow towers at the entrance for crossfire. The whole perimeter wrapped in wall and fence with extra hunting traps sewn around it. There is still a lord to the south, so a garrison has to stay. The militia are loyal and dependable but gone for good when they die. While the skeletons are fodder, no heartache to lose, only too weak to stand alone. I settle on 2 militia, paired with 2 towers in the fortifications, enough to shrug off harassment from a handful of Tier 1 troops, and buy time for me to bring reinforcements. The wait drags, but I do not sit idle patrolling the kilometer around the mine, clearing a few stray beasts, learning the ground. Snowsong returns in the afternoon at the head of the peasant column, reporting that supplies and manpower have arrived. I order construction to begin at once, and the 20 peasants throw themselves into it. My A-rank talent having the resource and time cost of every defensive structure, so the work flies. Watching the phantom buildings climb out of the dirt, my sense of safety thickens another layer. I cannot spend all my hours here though. A glance at the slanting western sun and the map tells me the forest to the west holds another cave, likely a second mine, probably iron. The one resource I am starved for, indispensable for traps and higher tier upgrades. I take Snowsong, leaving 4 militia to hold the mine alongside the skeletons, and bringing 2, plus 5 wolves, and we push into the western forest. It is older than the south, ancient trees blotting out the sun, the floor deep in rotting leaves. Half an hour in, we reach the base of the steep cliff and a black cave mouth, smaller than the goblin mine, gnawed bones and dark ore scattered at its threshold. I pick up a stone, weigh it, feel the hard, heavy grain. Unrefined low-grade iron ore. It really is an iron mine, and I rejoice inside. I signal the team quiet and ease up to a thicket near the mouth. A knot of strange creatures crowds the entrance. Heads enormous, nearly a third of their bodies, features pinched together until the eyes blur. Those great skulls planted on short bodies with no neck at all. Crude short spears in their hands. The system names them Cave Dwellers, Tier 1, Health 45, stats close to a goblin's, their skill immunity to blindness. Primitives bred so long in the dark that their sight is withered, and they navigate by hearing and smell. Immune to blindness, so they are already blind. No wonder darkness holds no fear for them. I count about 30 near the mouth, their vigilance high, one or another pressing its huge head to the ground now and then as if listening. Snowsong murmurs that there are more of them than the goblins, and they look harder to handle. I nod. Their attributes match the goblins, but the numbers worry me, and if they are hiding a Tier 2 elite or 2 the way the goblins were, this turns ugly. Worse, my bait-and-run trick is useless against things that hunt by hearing and smell. The wolves' harassment likely meaningless to them. Taking this mine would mean a real fight. Over 20 of them, and a head-on charge probably cost me several more skeletons. And at 8 gold each, dead broke with 4 gold to my name, I cannot afford to bleed money. This will not work today, I decide, and let the idea of an immediate attack go. The core of the cautious path is never to fight a battle I am unsure of. Never to fight a losing one. Wait a while longer. Snowsong can summon another wolf each day, and the refugee camp's weekly refresh is near. I hope next week brings me a surprise, I mutter, and wave her off, withdrawing in silence. We go for now. This one needs a long game. Dawn is just breaking when I stretch on the new wooden bed in the mansion, my joints cracking, and before I am fully awake a run of icy notices detonates in my mind. The The second round of the newbie period, the Crimson Moon, begins after midnight tonight. The scale and intensity of this monster tide far beyond the first. All lords urge to give everything, and any who fail their defense will be executed. Execution again. The last of my drowsiness vanishes. Are they not going to let anyone sleep? I curse under my breath, dressing fast and shoving the door open. Far beyond the first time, I survey my ground. 7 arrow towers, 2 rings of barrier, 100-odd hunting traps, more than enough for the first goblin wave. But against the tide the system itself calls far worse, I have no confidence at all. Not safe enough. The cautious path will not abide an obvious weak point anywhere in my territory. Losing even a sliver of troops makes me ache for half a day, so it is more practical to simply build more towers since towers are static and soldiers are not. And grinding the enemy down on cold structure is the cheapest answer there is. I open the construction list and lock onto the wooden arrow tower. The lumber and stone reserves have grown fat over the past days, so I tell myself resources are only resources, spend them and earn them back, and place orders for 8 more towers at the 4 corners and the soft spots. The system asks me to confirm 1,600 wood and 800 stone for 8 arrow towers, and I confirm without a flinch. A huge bite vanishes from my stores, but as the 8 phantom towers rise and the peasants swarm them with tools, my heart finally eases. 15 wooden arrow towers, centered on the mansion, woven into a layered, staggered web of fire across near and far. High and low, no ground attacker spared a baptism of arrows from every angle. No blind spot left. Towers alone are not enough, though, so I have the peasants pour every scrap of new lumber and stone into reinforcing the outer wall and palisade. In the evening, Snowsong comes back from the southern mine, leading a squad of peasants pushing a crude wheelbarrow loaded with the day's white crystals, soft light spilling off them, and she tells me the first batch has arrived. Perfect timing, and my spirits climb. I pick 3 key spots inside the territory and raise 3 illumination lighthouses, the system asking for 450 wood, 225 stone, and 3 white crystal, and I confirm. The moment they finish, I order every lighthouse lit, and the tall beacons flare together. Soft white light tearing the dark off the whole place, the outer defense zone included, bright as noon. Bathed in it, every unit in the territory steadies. I nod, satisfied, then take a moment for the area channel, which is the usual wall of wailing, people fresh off repairing yesterday's walls, people sure they are dead this time, people screaming for Ho Hyung to save them from a tide the system swears is worse. Wang Ho's reply surfaces fast, drenched in that supreme authority arrogance, sneering at the panic of country bumpkins who have never seen the world. He declares he has recruited a few more wolf cavalry and grown far stronger, that a mere monster tide is just the system delivering him resources. He orders the Heavenly Wolf Alliance to snap to, promising that after tonight they will be the sole overlord of the region, while the ungrateful wretches get torn apart. That jolts me. Wolf cavalry are Tier 3, impossible to roll out of a refugee camp, which means Wang Ho has dug up a building that recruits them outright. 5 wolf cavalry are a limited resource, but a steady stream of them is something else entirely, not to be underestimated. The clock crawls toward midnight, and exactly at midnight the crimson moon descends, the blood-red light richer than last time, a faint reek of blood threading the air. The monsters no longer come from a single direction. A warning flashes that a large-scale tide is closing on every side of my territory at once. I stand on the mansion roof, expression grave, as dense black shapes surge out of the dark at the edge of the beacon light. Among the frenzied goblins from last time there is a new kind, far taller than a goblin, stout dark red skin, hauling huge morning stars that shake the ground as they run. The system names them Goblin Thugs, Tier 2, Health 115, Strength 22, Skill Heavy Strike, Elite strong enough to crack a wooden shield with ease. Tier 2 is common cannon fodder now, I think, sucking in a breath. At least a dozen thugs ride a wave of nearly 100 frenzied goblins, an unstoppable green flood, and with this lineup any ordinary lord gets erased on the spot. I draw the stone axe I took off the goblin warrior and grip it tight, braced for the worst, ready to lead a street fight in person if the line breaks. The monsters hit the hunting trap zone, and the front goblins snap into the jaws, shrieking, legs bloodied, speed gutted, but the thugs behind simply trample their own and bull through. Then all 15 arrow towers open up at once, arrows pouring down like a hard rain, bloody bursts erupting across the horde, the numbers climbing in the 40s. The ordinary frenzied goblins die almost instantly, dropping in heaps, but the thugs are stubborn, an arrow only scratching off 20 or so, some of them batting shafts aside with their morning stars for next to no damage. The first thugs through the rain smash into the outer palisade, and the flimsy fence shreds like paper. I roar from the roof for Snowsong to slow those thugs, and she answers and starts working her staff beneath a tower, ice spikes streaking into the lead thugs, frost crusting them, their speed dragging down. I order the skeletons to hold the line, and 10 silent ones march in even steps at the thugs that breach the palisade, not to kill but to spend their fragile bones buying time for the towers behind. A thug's morning star comes down before one skeleton can even raise its sword, and the bone frame bursts apart. 8 gold coins, gone. My heart bleeds, but my gaze only goes colder. I command the militia and the wolf pack to hit the flanks and go for the legs, and 6 militia and 6 wolves pour out the gap in the main wall and stab into the thugs' sides like a pair of knives. The field becomes a meat grinder, towers raining death from above, skeletons building a wall out of their own bodies, militia and wolves harassing and finishing, but the sheer impact of the thugs makes the whole line shudder. Another thug breaks past the skeletons and slams its star into the sturdy wooden wall, and the system reports the wall's durability down 25 from a single blow. What a dozen goblins could not do in a long stretch. My eyelid twitches. They cannot be allowed near the wall. I make the call, ordering every militiaman to fall back behind the wall and thrust through the firing slits, and telling the wolves to keep harassing while Snowsong stops conserving mana and uses Ice Thorn as her basic attack. The tactics shift on the word. The militia retreat behind cover and jab out through the slits, safe and efficient, and Snowsong opens the throttle on her ice spikes until they barely stop, freezing any thug that nears the wall in place. The battle finally steadies, the monsters pinned outside and gnawed down under the arrow rain. The brutal exchange runs a full 10 minutes, and when the last thug, shot into a pincushion, topples unwilling, the field goes silent. I let out a long breath, my axe hand soaked with sweat, and survey the carnage outside. Corpses heaped, dark green blood running in little streams. I tally the cost. 6 skeletons killed, 2 militia hurt by monsters that crossed the line, not fatal thanks to their thick health. 2 wolves dead, a wide gap torn in the wall, a heavy chunk of hunting trap spent. A huge loss, I think, staring at the 6 fallen skeletons until my heart aches and twitches. 48 gold coins vanished just like that, but looking at the spoils blanketing the ground and the rewards about to drop, my mood recovers. What is gone, but as long as I am still standing, the rest is all profit. The system announces the second wave ended, settles the scores by each lord's performance, and a leaderboard blooms before every survivor. The names in order shuffled hard this time. Wang Ho sits first at 15 minutes 12 seconds, a lord named Han Ri second at 1835, me third at 2002, Yu Obo fourth. I look at the name above mine without surprise. 5 wolf cavalry are strong but few, and once the count climbs the math changes. It is the second place Han Ri who makes me look twice, a lord who has ranked high since the first Crimson Moon yet never spoken a word in the channel, a transparent presence. And now he has slipped past me to chase Wang Ho's heels. A dangerous one, hiding his strength. The channel detonates after a beat of silence, the sycophants crowing that Ho Young is first and invincible. Sniping that my drop to third proves last time was luck, others asking who this Han Ri even is. Wang Ho has plainly been lurking, drinking in the praise, and he fires off a fresh announcement swollen with pride, telling everyone they have just seen absolute strength. He boasts that he lucked into a blueprint for an evil wolf camp and can now mint wolf cavalry without end, that his squad has swelled to 15 riders, that he has also seized an outdoor gold mine and will never want for gold again. Evil wolf camp, gold mine, 15 wolf cavalry. The string of bombshells stops the channel's breath. If the old Wang Ho was a thick leg with promise, this one is taking the rough shape of a regional hegemon. He turns the knife my way, demanding to know why I am silent this time, telling me that if I am smart I will kneel and be his dog now, and he might toss me a scrap. I close the channel without expression. There is pressure, real pressure. 15 tier 3 wolf cavalry are enough to crush any lord at this stage, and a tower volley would barely scratch one for a dozen or 20 points. I have to grow my combat power fast, or find a way to counter cavalry. I shake it off and turn to the rewards landing for third place. 2 white resource chests, a green recruitment order, and a random building blueprint chest, 3 beams of light settling into storage. The green chest I took for first place last time still funds days of spending, so third place this time should not be bad either. I open the white chests, and they give me 700 wood, 250 stone, 80 iron ore, then 650 wood, 300 stone, 90 gold coins. My face darkens. The pair together is not half what that single green chest gave. The gap between ranks brutal. Still, even a mosquito's leg is meat, especially the gold for recruiting. I take out the green recruitment order, which randomly calls between 1 and 10 troops of tier 2 to tier 4. The white order gave me 8 militia last time, so the green should at least cough up a tier 3 soldier, even if fewer of them. I rub my hands and use it. Green light bursts before the mansion, and as it scatters, 7 strange figures stand on the open ground. Upright, human tall, sheathed in tough green scales, lizard heads, simple longbows on their backs, golden slit pupils sharp with wariness. The system reads them as lizardman archers. Tier 2, health 90, strength 14, skill precise shot, superb hunters of the swamps, born to the bow. 7 tier 2 troops. My luck, I sigh, holding my forehead. The lower limit again. Wang Ho opens with wolf cavalry and my draws come up black as the bottom of a pot. Still, better than nothing. The 7 archers patch exactly the hole I have, a mobile ranged force, since Snowsong's Ice Thorn carries too long a cooldown and too heavy a mana cost to lean on as regular output. With these 7, my tactics gain real flexibility. They plant their bows and kneel on one knee, answering my summons with hoarse hisses, and I nod, satisfied, then check Snowsong's panel. The great battle pushed her to level 3, her attributes jumping in a way the militia never manage, since they crawl up a single point per level, as if they had not leveled at all. Heroes carry far higher growth, I see, the real stock's worth holding. Last is the random building blueprint chest, which gave me a useless farmhouse last time, locked until the mansion upgrade. This time I want something that matters, a recruiting building above all, anything. I clasp my hands, pay my respects to the gods of every direction, and open it, a mushroom house blueprint, and my heart tightens as I read it. A dark, damp cave full of strange mushrooms, the favored home of cave dwellers, recruiting a number of them weekly that grows with its level. 800 wood, 1200 stone, 50 rotten clay, 10 hours. Cave dwellers. The iron mine in the western forest flashes through my mind, guarded by exactly that, a pack of cave dwellers. A bold idea surfaces. Human and cave dweller tongues almost certainly do not mesh, but cave dweller to cave dweller. If I build this mushroom house first, recruit a batch of my own, and send them to talk to their wild kin in the iron mine, could I persuade the lot to surrender without spilling a drop of blood? Once the thought lands, I cannot smother it. Storming the iron mine, even winning, means heavy casualties, but if the persuasion takes I seize the mine untouched and gain cave dweller soldiers for free, a windfall of the first order. There is risk, of course. The two groups might simply fall to fighting on sight and wreck the whole scheme. But the payoff is just as enormous. Worth the gamble. The catch is the new material, rotten clay. I open the map and comb every node Snowsong marked until my eyes lock on a stretch labeled swamp to the northwest. There should be clay in a swamp. I decide on the spot to lead a team out at first light tomorrow to dig. Morning sun has just spilled into the mansion when I walk to the entrance and look over the wrecked territory. The gaping breach in the wall jarring, the outer fence in splinters, 2 arrow towers swaying on the edge of collapse. I order repairs, and the waiting peasants rush in with tools and material. I tell them to replace the spent hunting traps too, to make 20 more and blanket the ground around the breach. Then I take stock for the day's run. I bring Snowsong and 2 uninjured militia, mobilize the entire skeleton force, add the new lizard men for their first taste of blood, and pick 20 peasants. The target is the northwestern swamp and the rotten clay for the mushroom house. The team assembles and marches northwest in a grand column, the trip so quiet we do not flush a single rabbit. After about an hour, a stench of rot and mud hits us, and a wide muddy swamp opens ahead, unknown water plants drifting on the inky green surface, bubbles burping up now and then. This is the place, I think, covering my nose in disgust, and I point the peasants at a patch of darker mud at the edge to start digging. The system flags it, my peasants gathering 1 rotten clay at a time, 3 minutes each. The 20 peasants set to it with their wooden shovels, while I spread the soldiers in a security ring and drop onto a dry stone to watch the progress bar with boredom. Then a scout wolf trots back and yips low at Snowsong, who reports movement to the north at once. I rise and follow the wolf to crouch behind a small mound. 100 meters off, 4 goblins skulk along, and behind them, of all things, a human in plain linen with a short sword, scanning his surroundings warily. Are those goblins his troops? Is he the lord from the north? The thought flickers. A swamp, a man come from due north. As I watch, the other lord seems to feel it too, his head snapping up until his gaze meets mine across the 100 meters. I hold still, calm, curious, how this new neighbor will react. A few seconds later, he does something that surprises me, raising a hand and waving toward my position, a greeting or a taunt. I cannot read it. He gestures to his goblins, turns, and vanishes into the far trees without hesitation. Interesting, I think, standing up from the mound. He showed no hostility, which is good news, but caution stays. I tell Snowsong to keep the wolf pack watching the north closely, and she answers. The digging goes on. As for the northern lord, so long as he stays out of my hair, there is no need to deal with him yet. Another half hour and the 50 units of rotten clay are gathered. I wave the team to wrap it up and head home, and lead them back loaded down. On the way, a forward wolf finds something else, growling at a small clearing, and I halt the team and go to look. 7 or 8 earthy yellow creatures like lumps of mud writhe slowly in the open. I read them. Mud slimes, Tier 1, Health 105, Strength 4, Agility 3, low-grade earth element things that move slower than dirt but endure forever. Agility 3, I nearly laugh aloud, slower than a crawling turtle, but the 105 health and 21 stamina put them near the Tier 2 goblins for bulk. A perfect target dummy. My eyes shift to the 7 lizardman archers. I point at the slimes and tell the 7 of them to handle it, to keep their distance and just shoot. The lizard heads nod, seeming to catch my meaning, and they form a loose line and walk to about 50 meters out. More than enough range for archers. Bowstrings sing in succession, 7 arrows tearing the air to bury themselves in the mud bodies with dull thuds. Damage numbers floating up in the 30s, not much worse than a tower, and far faster. The mud slimes finally react and start grinding toward the lizard men at a pace that has me yawning. The archers knock, draw, and loose in fluid rhythm, volley after volley, and the whole scene turns comic. 7 archers raining fire while 8 tanks die slowly on a charge that never touches a hem. In under a minute, every mud slime is a lifeless heap of muck. This is not a battle, it is bullying. The system hands me a gray chest, and I kick the mud aside and open it. 200 stone and 10 iron ore. Better than nothing, I sigh. Consider it target practice for the lizard men. We reach home in the afternoon, the wall and fence already mended, 20 fresh hunting traps gleaming cold at the key junctions. I take no rest, opening the construction list and locking onto the new blueprint. The mushroom house. 800 wood, 1200 stone, 50 rotten clay. I confirm the build, and a cave silhouette rises from a corner of the territory, the peasants swarming it with clanging tools. A 10-hour countdown opening in my view. I stare at the progress bar full of anticipation, my mind on the iron mine to the west and the cave dwellers nested inside it. One night passes. In a corner of the territory, a new structure stands finished. A giant mound of earth half sunk in the ground, mossy and slick, its entrance a black cave mouth ringed by colorful, faintly glowing mushrooms. The mushroom house. I walk up and lay my palm to the wet stone beside the opening. Level 1 it reads, refreshing 7 to 14 Tier 1 cave dwellers a week. Upgradable once the mansion hits level 3. This week's recruits already refreshed. Upgradable 2, not bad. I nod and open the recruitment screen. 10 cave dwellers available at 12 gold coins each. 12 for 1, a full 50% over a skeleton. But the stats run higher. Health 45, Strength 8, Constitution 9, that same immunity to blindness. With the iron mine in mind, this money has to be spent. This time I am here to negotiate, not fight, but negotiation rests on strength, and I cannot send a lone cave dweller envoy to 30 of his wild brethren and politely ask them to surrender, because they would beat him into paste. I need enough force standing behind the words to make the meaning plain. Refuse and die. I check my balance. 104 gold, not even enough for all 10. Forget it. I gamble, gritting my teeth, and select 8. The system confirms 96 gold for 8 cave dwellers. I confirm, and my gold drops to a pitiful 8. The mushroom house mouth stays dark and silent, and just as I think the system is frozen, 8 bulky green figures shuffle out, crude short spears in hand, gazing around blankly before turning as one toward me and planting their spears in the ground in salute. A little ugly, but my troops all the same. I wave grandly and start assigning. Snow Song with her wolves, every militia, every skeleton, every lizardman archer to assemble, the 8 new cave dwellers to follow, and 20 peasants with their tools to move out alongside. The column comes together, 50-odd units in all, Snow Song and 6 wolves, 6 militia, 6 skeletons, 7 lizardman archers, 8 cave dwellers, 20 peasants, a force so grand a stranger might think I am marching on another lord. We head west, straight for the iron mine forest. This time I do not sneak. I order 2 peasants to start knocking, and they pull out their tools and hammer up a deliberate racket, the sudden din snapping the cave dwellers at the mine mouth to alarm. Weapons up, great heads swinging toward the sound. Low threatening growls rising in their throats. I halt the main force 200 meters out and array it, militia and cave dwellers at the front, lizardman archers behind, skeletons and wolves on the flanks, 20 tool-bearing peasants at the rear, the whole black mass exuding pressure. Then I send 2 of my recruited cave dwellers forward, telling them to relay the terms, lay down their weapons, vacate the mine, and join my territory. The 2 stand stunned a moment, trade a glance, then trundle off toward the entrance, on their short legs. A system notice pops up before my eyes. It detects me attempting to persuade the wild cave dweller tribe to surrender, checks the target's friendliness on a scale from stubborn through hostile, neutral friendly, to intimate, and reports their initial friendliness toward me as friendly. Then it runs the surrender judgment and declares it a success. The tribe has agreed to surrender. The string of words leaves me stunned. It worked, just like that. Friendly. Why? Did I sprout some kind and gentle face overnight? Or has my kingly aura climbed so high it converts wild monsters from hundreds of meters off? The 2 cave dwellers I sent are not even halfway there. A commotion stirs near the mouth, and a figure larger than a regular cave dweller walks out, its green skin shot through with magma red patterns. My 2 messengers reach it and chatter something, and a moment later the red one leads the entire tribe out, weapons set down, all of them shuffling toward my position. The 2 spokesmen run back, point at the red leader, and chatter again, and though I cannot parse a word the system kindly translates, relaying that cave dweller Chief Stonehammer is willing to lead his whole tribe to pledge allegiance, and asks for my protection. The system adds that neutral, friendly, or intimate units that defect have their loyalty fixed at adoration, and will never betray me. That dispels the last of my doubt. I look the red cave dweller over and read it. A Hell Caveman, Tier 2, Health 105, Strength 21, immunity to blindness, an elite mutated by absorbing a little subterranean fire, stronger in body and arm. A Tier 2 elite, and more than one of them, their numbers slightly below the Tier 2 goblins, but Tier 2 all the same. A wave of lingering fear passes through me. Had we actually fought, with my thin resources, victory was a question, never mind a flawless one. This persuasion is a massive profit. I clear my throat, put on an air of depth, and tell the chief I accept his allegiance. Then, to be safe, take Snowsong and the militia as guard and step cautiously into the iron mine. The system congratulates me on occupying the small iron mine, and because I am first to take an iron type point, it hands me a bonus blueprint. The mine holds a reserve of 3,000, 1 iron ore per miner per day, capped at 20 units daily. The furnace smelts unrefined ore into iron ore, costing 1,000 stone and 10 iron ore, and 5 assigned miners smelting up to 20 units a day. So full output means 20 miners digging and 5 smelting, 25 in all, 5 miners' huts, and 1 furnace for a steady 20 iron ore a day. A crucial strategic resource. I give the order to start work, and the 20 peasants pick their sites near the mouth and begin raising miners' huts in the furnace. Then I patrol the perimeter and sketch the fortifications. 4 arrow towers at the cave mouth, walls around the outside, animal traps scattered through. That done, I walk out to inspect the troops I just absorbed. 33 regular cave dwellers, 3 tier 2 hell cavemen, 36 units total, more than double the goblin pack at the White Crystal Mine. Time to assign garrisons, I think. Stroking my chin. Both mine strongholds need manpower. I leave 8 tier 1 cave dwellers here, send 8 more to the White Crystal Mine and swap the 2 militia back, and plan to raise another tower or 2 at each next visit, so any lord eyeing them has to count the cost first. Cave dwellers live in caves by nature, so setting them to guard the mines is the neatest fit there is. I count the army at my command, and ambition surges. 36 cave dwellers, 3 of them tier 2 elites, my ground force more than doubled at a stroke, and looking over the rest of my troops a confidence I have never felt rises in me. I have lain low long enough, time to clear out the surrounding trash. I open the goblin skin map, its red charcoal circles all tier 1 wild camp Snowsong scouted, the ones I could only nibble at before for lack of strength. Now I want every one of them. I wave the imposing column out. The first is a small wild boar camp east of the territory. 3 tier 1 boars rooting in the woods. Before, I would have had to kite them carefully with Snowsong's ice thorn, but not now. I order the cave dwellers and militia to form up front, and push the wolves to harass the hind legs from the flanks, the lizard men to fire freely. The shield wall of cave dwellers and militia advances like a moving rampart, and the 3 boars redden their eyes and charge head down. Tusks slam into the cave dwellers, the impact knocking some over, but in that stalled moment the 6 wolves dart in at the vulnerable hind legs, and the 7 lizard men put arrows into eyes and necks. Snowsong does not even bother, just stands aside with her staff watching. In under 30 seconds, the 3 boars are 3 bleeding corpses. My only cost a couple of cave dwellers bowled over and lightly scratched. Negligible. I move them to the next, and a goblin camp of 7 units goes down without suspense, the greenskins sieved by lizardman arrows and militia spears before they can even form a line, the system handing me a gray chest. I keep going. I sweep the camps around my territory like an autumn wind stripping leaves, every red marker crumbling almost the instant my mixed army arrives. Before long, I cannot be bothered to command it all and hand authority to Snowsong drifting along at the back of the column to slack off. Before I notice it, the markers are nearly all gone, only the last remaining. I camp deeper in the swamp that I saved for last because Snowsong's report named it the largest, with 1 tier 2 elite among them. The army reaches it, an open shallow pond dotted with green duckweed, more than 10 water blue jelly creatures hopping and playing on the surface, one of them noticeably larger and darker, sprawled lazily in the center. The system reads the small ones as water droplet slimes, tier 1, and the big one as a water accumulation slime. Tier 2, health 170, it skills water healing and split, an evolved slime with minor healing and a strange proliferation ability. Slimes again, I mutter. One of the 3 great plagues of the starter village, as common as goblins and boars, though thick and slow and weak hitting, easy enough to handle. I call for battle stations, shedding the contempt, since even a lion strikes a rabbit at full force. I put the cave dwellers and militia up front, set the lizardmen to ready a volley on the big one, and have Snowsong ready an ice thorn to see if it freezes. The army deploys slow and grim toward the pond, and the slimes notice, breaking off their play to cluster around the tier 2-1, bodies rippling, plopping out warning sounds. I am about to call the general attack, when something bizarre happens. The largest water accumulation slime hops out from the group, shows no hostility at all, simply stops in front of my army and sways its body up and down, as if it is bowing. I am completely stunned. What move is this? Surrendering because it cannot win. Then a notice drops my jaw. The system detecting the wild water accumulation slime attempting to surrender, checking its affinity, finding it friendly, running the judgment, declaring success. The slime clan has agreed to surrender. My mouth holds an O shape for a long while. What is going on? With the cave dwellers, I at least sent a negotiator over to intimidate and entice them, but this time I had barely arrayed my forces before the enemy leader slid to its knees, and an initial affinity of friendly on top. Could I really have a kingly aura, I wonder, touching my face, baffled? Could it be because I am handsome? Unable to crack it, I drop it. Killing these slimes nets a little loot and some experience for my men, but accepting them means a dozen plus free troops. Those slimes crawl and hit softly, they carry enormous health. Perfect meat shields just lying there, and that tier 2 one lists water healing and split, a healer and a factory. This deal cannot lose. I nod at the water accumulation slime and tell it I accept its surrender. As if it understands, it bounces twice on the spot in delight, its body briefly squishing itself into a heart shape, then turns and plops a few times at its companions in the pond. The system reports 1 water accumulation slime and 14 water droplet slimes joined to my territory, their loyalty fixed forever at adoration. 15 new units on my panel, and I am grinning so wide my mouth will not close. I click the tier 2-1 split detail, a passive that periodically buds off a fresh water droplet slime when it sits in a water-rich environment, the interval wildly unstable, swayed by surroundings and its own condition. My eyes light up. A mobile recruitment building that walks around and costs nothing. The split timing may be erratic, but having it beats not, which means as long as I keep this thing near water, I get a stream of free tier 1 meat shields. A huge profit, a massive profit, I think, gazing at the bouncy blue jellies with the fondest eyes. No monsters at all, just a pack of adorable mobile resource packs. I pat the water accumulation slime's cool, slick body and tell them they follow me now, promising they will live well, and the slime sways contentedly under my hand. I wave the army to disperse and head home with spirit, and lead my new slime legion back. The sweep cleared the surrounding threats and folded in 2 whole forces besides. My total strength surged to an astonishing height. The sky brightens, and I stretch and walk out of the mansion refreshed, still floating after yesterday's clean sweep and the surprise recruits. The dozen-odd water droplet slimes are bumping aimlessly into one another in a corner while the big one lies sluggish on the ground. This will not do. My armory cannot sit idle. I summon a few peasants and tell them to dig a big pit over there and fill it with water, a proper home for the blue jellies, and the command being absolute, they shoulder their tools and set to it. As I finish arranging the slime's lodging, a system notice times itself perfectly. The refugee camp refreshed. New units available. A new week and my spirits lift as I rub my hands and head for the tattered tent. Last time was skeletons, fragile but serviceable. This time I want something stronger. I open the recruitment screen full of hope, and my smile freezes on the spot. Butterfly Sprite Tier 1. 10 available at 8 gold each. I click the details. Health 20, Strength 4, Agility 13. A small creature that loves nectar and sunshine. Able to fly by nature but extremely frail. I fall into a long silence. 20 health, 5 under a skeleton, ranked below even a skeleton. The touch it and it shatters tier. Its strength so low the damage must be dismal. And unlike a slime it cannot even tank. The one bright spot is that it flies. With that agility of 13, the first flying unit I have met. The strategic value of an air force speaks for itself. Scouting, harassment, covering ground troops, slipping past defenses for a decapitation. All of it full of possibility. But I glance at the cost, then at the lonely 8 gold on my panel. After everything, I can only afford 1. Buy it or not, buying 1 leaves it nearly useless on the main field and burns 8 gold, while not buying means missing a flying unit that may never refresh again. Forget it. I buy it. I decide. Teeth gritted. Treat it as a mascot, since at least it flies and makes a fine bit of mobile surveillance. I confirm 8 gold for 1 butterfly sprite, my balance dropping to 0, and a faint golden light drifts out of the tent. A little creature about a meter tall flutters out on transparent butterfly wings, pale yellow all over, cute brown spots dotting its skin. Short golden hair, a peculiar weapon in its hand longer than a dagger, and shorter than a short sword. It circles my head curiously, then settles in front of me and tilts its head to study its new lord. Alright, it is fairly cute, I think, telling it that from now on its job is, well, to look cute. Just as I am wondering where to find more gold for the other 9 butterfly sprites, a militiaman rushes over to tell me the eastern neighbor is back. Gang Jin. I am mildly surprised and wonder what he wants, telling the man to have him wait at the old spot, that I will be right there. I take Snowsong and the 2 freshly defected Hell cavemen as bodyguards and head for the eastern edge. The 2 cavemen tall and imposing, magma red patterns over their skin, crude stone spears in hand, plainly not to be trifled with. Gang Jin keeps his composed air and shows little reaction to the Tier 2 cavemen behind me, since his own troops were Tier 2 from the start. He opens by remarking that it has been only a few days, yet my territory's strength has truly changed by leaps and bounds, a note of feeling in it. I answer flatly that it is nothing much, then tell him people do not visit without a reason and ask why he has come. He cuts straight to it, that he wants to discuss a major business deal. I ask how major. His face turns serious as he says that to the west of his territory. Slightly to the east of the midpoint between us, he has found a gold mine. A gold mine. My breath catches, since I was just fretting over the shortage of gold and now someone delivers a pillow to a drowsy man. He reads me and dumps cold water, telling me not to celebrate yet, that the mine is already taken, a pack of dwarves rooted there. their strength formidable. The ones guarding the mouth are all tier 2 dwarfs, tough-skinned and incredibly strong. And worse, their leader is a tier 3 dwarf king. Tier 3, I frown. My strongest unit is only a tier 2 hell caveman, and I have never faced a tier 3 head-on. He sighs that he tried a few probing attacks, and I can guess the result. They could not even touch the entrance. I understand. He cannot chew this bone alone and wants me as a partner. I ask whether he wants my help taking the gold mine and what I get out of it. After we secure it, all output split 50-50, he offers. An extremely tempting line. He adds another sweetener, that he will supply every construction resource the mining needs. The miners' huts, the furnace, all of it. I need manage nothing, only bring troops and fight alongside him to take the mine, and every afternoon he will send my share of the gold to me by this little stream. The terms drip sincerity. He covers nearly all the upfront cost, and I need only join one battle to reap a daily income, which means the Dwarf King has truly scared him. I run the math fast. There is real risk, a tier 3 Dwarf King no easy mark, casualties guaranteed, and Gangjin might play tricks mid-fight, spending my men as fodder or turning on me after the win. But the reward is just as large, the mine securing me an endless supply of gold, funding those 10 butterfly sprites and stronger troops to come. As for betrayal, I glance at the 2 silent mountainous hell cavemen at my back, think of the slimes and skeletons and lizardmen at home, and decide I am strong and well stocked enough now that his trickery does not frighten me. I tell him his offer is tempting, but ask how I can trust him not to burn the bridge once we have crossed it. His gaze sharpens as he says it is because we share an enemy. He explains that Wang Ho's wolf cavalry has grown to 15 riders and the gold mine is in his hands too, the #1 public enemy of the region. If the 2 of us fight now, we only make him laugh. So uniting is our only road out. The words land. Next to the arrogant fool Wang Ho, a cool and clever man like Gangjin is plainly the better temporary ally. I tell him fine, I agree, then hold up one finger and add one condition. In the battle his troops answer to him and mine to me. We coordinate but neither orders the other's men into the meat grinder, and if we win the spoils split evenly. He agrees readily, calls it very fair. Then it is settled. I tell him, we meet here tomorrow at sunrise and go greet the shorties. A deal? He nods, then turns and leaves with his centaur. I watch him go and head back, already running the battle against the Dwarf King in my head. A tier 3 boss. Perfect. I will use it to test the mettle of my motley crew. Dawn breaks the next day, and I yawn my way over to the new water pit in the corner, where the tier 2 water accumulation slime soaks in comfort, body rippling. I name it 3 Waters on a whim, and 3 Waters shakes itself and spits out a small water ball with a soft pop, as if in answer. I look at it, then at the dozen smaller water droplet slimes beside it. At its speed, I tell it, it will arrive long after the main force is done. So I order 3 Waters to take its children and set out now, heading east along the path we came back on, and we will catch up. 3 Waters shakes and starts its long expedition with the little ones in a hopping, skipping line. With the painfully slow slime legion sent ahead, I turn to assemble the main force. Neither mine's defense can slack, so the original 16 Tier 1 cave dwellers stay to garrison them, well suited to the cave life. I order everyone else to assemble. A massive, motley army gathers before the mansion. 25 Tier 1 cave dwellers, 3 Crimson Hell cavemen, 8 seasoned militia, 7 silent lizardmen archers, Snowsong at the very front with 7 spirited wolves. My gaze sweeps them and lands on the 6 skeletons standing still in the corner. They have worked hard enough, I think, with a tired breath. Between the Crimson Moon and the past few days fighting, half the 12 fragile skeletons are gone. I decide at last to leave them home to guard the gate, telling them I will not bring them out again unless I must, and I set the last 6 as the city defense reserve. Then I glance up at the butterfly sprite fluttering over my head and tell it that it can just be an aerial mascot. Arrangements made, I wave the army grandly out. The army marches east toward the small creek, and after about half an hour we catch the slime legion still gamely hopping along the road. I cannot quite hold back a wry smile as I gather them into the center of the formation and push on. We reach the agreed creek before Gangjin, so I am in no hurry, letting the troops rest and drink and recover their stamina. Soon a dense drumming of hooves rolls out of the eastern woods, and Gangjin appears at the tree line with an army that even makes me look twice. 8 Tier 2 Centaur spearmen lead, imposing as ever. 6 longbow-bearing centaurs behind them as ranged units, the system tagging them Centaur archers, Tier 2. On the flanks stand 4 short units each, working slings and eyeing my cave dwellers and slimes with curiosity. Halfling slingers, Tier 1. Stranger still, 8-meter-long snow-white snakes flicker their tongues near the halfling's feet. White-scale snakes, Tier 1. At the rear, a man in chainmail with a gleaming longsword and a resolute face sits a tall warhorse, back ramrod straight, gaze sharp, plainly a commander, a hero unit. Gangjin's force is complete in troop types and carries a hero besides. I count fast 14 Tier 2 units on his side alone more than mine. He walks up and apologizes for keeping me waiting. I answer that I only just arrived, pointing at his ranks and telling him it is quite the display. He gives a wry smile and says he had no choice with dwarves to fight, that he brought out everything he had, His eyes sweep my side, and when they catch the 3 Hell Caveman and the big group of slimes, his expression shifts, and he says I am truly hiding my strength. After a round of polite praise, we drop the chatter, and he suggests we go scout the situation first. The 2 armies merge and advance toward the gold mine, soldiers on both sides eyeing each other along the way, my slimes and cave dwellers drawing more than a few looks from his centaurs. We halt the main force a few hundred meters from the mine, and Gangjin takes me forward with both heroes, his commander and my snow song, the 4 of us creeping close. Through a dense belt of trees, the view opens onto a vast valley, a sturdy fortress of massive stone and logs standing at its entrance, the open ground before it bristling with sharpened stakes and barricades, a meticulously prepared defensive position. On the walls, dwarves only about 1.33 meters tall but solidly built and heavily bearded, patrol back and forth in thick leather armor with heavy battle axes, the system naming them Dwarf Warriors Tier 2. Among them stand dwarves carrying strange tube-shaped metal weapons, and Gangjin lowers his voice to call them dwarf gunners, their muskets long-ranged and immensely powerful, a single shot able to badly wound a centaur charge. I read one, a dwarf gunner, Tier 2, health 120, strength 23, skills precise shot and armor-piercing round, a masterwork of dwarfcraft, gunpowder lending them the nerve to stand against dragons. About 30 dwarf warriors on the wall, and 10 gunners, Gangjin says, all Tier 2, and that is not the worst of it. He points to the highest watchtower, where a figure a full size larger than a regular dwarf sits on an ornate stone chair, leisurely sipping from a wine goblet. A gem-set crown rests on its head, a suit of exquisite rune armor covers its body, and a warhammer taller than itself leans beside it. The system reads it as Dwarf Chieftain Ironbeard, Tier 3, Level 10, Health 275, Strength 48, Skills Heavy Strike and Sweep, the ruler of this gold mine, his hammer rumored to shatter mountains. A Tier 3 boss, I murmur. Yes. Gangjin says grimly that he sent his hero to probe once and it was knocked flying by a single hammer swing, barely making it back, and that these dwarves are too intelligent to be lured out, so baiting is useless. I fall silent. This is trickier than I imagined. A solid fortress, musket firepower at range, melee bruisers, and an unfathomable Tier 3 boss. This is no gold mine, it is a military fort. I tell him no wonder he offered 50-50 and offered to handle all the logistics, that this bone is genuinely tough to chew. That is why we have to join forces, he says, asking whether I have any ideas. I do not answer at once, my gaze sweeping the fortress layout. One main entrance only, the side's sheer mountain cliff that rules out any rear sneak attack. The single path of frontal assault, and a frontal assault means walking into the concentrated fire of 10 dwarf gunners. I glance at my own troops, both the cave dwellers and the slime's slow-moving targets, countless units sure to die on the charge in. I tell him at last that a hard rush is the worst option, that we have to find a way to silence their ranged firepower first. Gangjin asks how we silence it. Is centaur archers outranged? A ranged duel is suicide. My eyes fall on the butterfly sprite hovering over my head, at the moment bored in chasing a real butterfly through the air. Perhaps, I tell him, I have a way after all. Gangjin follows my eyes to the butterfly sprite drifting over my head, and the little thing, no longer than my forearm, flaps its wings and looks back at him. He cannot help frowning, and he asks whether I am joking, whether I really mean to pin our hopes on that. Besides flying, the creature looks useless, its health probably no higher than a wild rabbit's, and sent at the fortress it would only be a moving target for the dwarves. I tell him not to underestimate it, beckon, and the butterfly sprite drops obediently to land on my shoulder. Then I ask him what he thinks the dwarf muskets fear most. He thinks it over and guesses close combat, or maybe heavy damage. I tell him no, that they run on gunpowder, and gunpowder fears nothing in the world so much as damp. His eyes light up and then immediately dim, because we have no unit in either army that can touch the weather. I tell him that is exactly why we need this little one, and I point at the butterfly sprite on my shoulder. I am not relying on it to fight. I am relying on it to wreck their guns before the battle even starts. I turn and call 3 waters over from behind the troops. The Tier 2 water accumulation slime bounces across and rubs its jelly body against my trouser leg, and I tell it to spit out something slimy, the grosser the better. It shudders, and with a soft pop it ejects a clump of translucent foul-smelling mucus. I take a lump of rotten clay from my storage space, the muck I dug out of the swamp days ago, and knead the two together into a sticky black ball the size of a fingernail. The thing is so rank that Gangjin and his hero Na Seong both step back with open disgust on their faces. I do not mind it at all. The slime mucus seals out air, the rotten clay carries moisture, and mixed together they will turn gunpowder, or dry firewood for that matter, into useless wet sludge. I pinch the little black ball and hold it out to the butterfly sprite. It is time the mascot earned its keep, so I give it a name on the spot, Little Gold, and ask whether it sees the crowned shorty at the highest point of the fortress. Little Gold nods its tiny head. I ask whether it sees the cup beside him, and it nods again. I tell it to fly up there and without a soul noticing, drop this thing into his cup, and above all not to be discovered. I let the wicked smile show. Little Gold takes the clay ball, larger than its own fist, cradles it in both small hands, and lifts off a little unsteadily before climbing in silence toward the dwarf fortress. Gang Jin and Na Xiong watch it go, dumbfounded, and he asks me whether this can possibly work. I tell him he will know when he sees it. Little Gold flies high, its silhouette under the glaring sun no bigger than a bird, and the dwarf soldiers on the wall never bother to look up. It circles, finds a clean angle, and lets go. The black clay ball traces an almost invisible arc through the air and lands silently in the magnificent wine cup of the dwarf king, Ironbeard. Mission done. Little Gold wheels and beats its wings hard, vanishing into the clouds. On the fortress, Ironbeard is idly surveying his domain. He lifts his cup, brings it to his lips out of habit, and takes a deep gulp. The next instant he spits the whole mouthful out in a spray, mixed with a string of furious dwarf curses, and stares down at the murky, stinking liquid and the black sludge dissolving in it, his beard bristling with rage. He roars a demand to know which bastard did this, a bellow that shakes the whole valley, and lurches to his feet, his sharp gaze raking the surroundings for the culprit who dared to mock the great King Ironbeard. He finds nothing but a few birds, and at last he smashes the cup against the ground in a crisp shatter. Out in the woods, Gang Jin and Na Song stand with their mouths hanging open, unable to close them, and Gang Jin asks whether it actually worked. I wear the smile of a plan come together and ask whether he still thinks the little thing is useless. He shakes his head, and the look he turns on me has gone complicated, the kind that wonders how my brain is wired to keep producing tricks this strange and this effective. He says he understands now that I mean to have it drop the same poison onto the gunner's gunpowder tonight. I confirm it, snapping my fingers, and tell him that once their muskets are dead, the rest of the dwarves are just slow targets on legs. He praises the plan as brilliant, and asks what we do now. I tell him we wait and find a flat rock to sit on. We wait for dark. The wait runs long, both armies resting in their own quarters kept clearly apart. Night finally falls, faint specks of torchlight blooming across the valley and lighting the dwarf fortress bright. The dwarves on the wall changing shifts and watching the dark with care. I whisper to Little Gold on my shoulder that the operation begins. The cave dwellers have already shaped dozens of fist-sized clay bombs, and Little Gold can carry only one at a time. Yet it makes no complaint, taking a bomb and lifting into the pitch-black sky where the darkness is its best disguise. It glides above the fortress, well clear of the torchlight, looking down on the whole compound. The gunners do not keep their muskets on them at night, racking the weapons neatly by the wall, their powder bags hung on posts nearby. Little Gold finds its first target, drops low like a ghost directly over a powder bag, and releases. The clay bomb falls free and bursts across the rawhide bag, the clay and mucus smearing over every inch of it, some of the muck even seeping in through the opening. A dozing dwarf nearby twitches an ear as if he heard something, opens his eyes, sees nothing wrong, and goes back to sleep. With that, Little Gold turns straight back to me for the second bomb. Once, twice, 3 times, the tireless little fellow becomes the hardest working porter in the night, ferrying back and forth between forest and fortress like a machine running a precise program, delivering my custom-made wrecking charge onto every last gunner's powder bag. Gang Jin and Na Som watch from the side, hardly daring to breathe. They are seeing with their own eyes how the weakest, most overlooked unit in the army can dismantle the proudest defense of a sturdy fortress in a way no one would believe. By the time Little Gold completes its 10th run and lands tired on my shoulder, the sky carries the first faint gray of dawn. I stroke its head, tell it well done, and dig a wild fruit out of storage left from an earlier hunt, and it hugs the fruit happily and starts to nibble. Then I stand and tell all units to prepare, my voice low but carrying across the whole team, and Gangjin gives the order at once, his centaurs assembling fast with low whinnies as morning mist seeps through the valley. I lay out the plan in a few sharp lines. My slimes and cave dwellers advance head-on to draw the fire. His centaur spearmen stand ready to charge from the flanks, and every ranged unit, my lizardmen and his centaur archers both, holds for my command to focus everything on the Dwarf King. Gangjin answers that he understands, and I give the order to charge. The army, barely able to contain itself, lets out an earth-shaking cry and pours toward the fortress, my bouncy slimes leading the way and forming a moving blue wall of flesh. The alarm on the wall shrieks instantly, the cry of enemy attack rising as the sleepy dwarves scramble to their posts, the 10 gunners reaching the wall first to snatch up their muskets and powder. They see the dense enemy tide surging up from the valley floor and grin cruel grins, one of them taunting the long-legged monsters to come taste his might as he loads, raises and aims at a slime in the front rank. He pulls the trigger. There is a crisp click, but no roar, no flash of fire. He freezes, checks the weapon, finds nothing wrong, and tries again. Another click, only the dry sound of a mechanism misfiring. He shouts in confusion that something is wrong with his gun. Another gunner cries that his 2 is dead, and a third tears open his powder bag, pulls out a fistful of wet black sludge, and curses that his powder is soaked through. Up on the wall, the 10 gunners dissolve into chaos, their proud weapons turned overnight into 10 useless iron pokers. And down in the valley, our allied forces have already crossed the open ground and reached the foot of the fortress. On the wall, the dwarves descend into full panic, one bellowing that his powder has turned to mud, another spitting that the stuff reeks of rotten swamp moss, and a third roaring at the rest to forget the muskets, take up axes, and chop these things to pieces. They throw down the dead weapons, grab the battle axes at their waists, and start hurling spare stones and short-throwing axes down at the base of the wall. The heavy stones and axes smash into the slime horde, but they only sink in with dull thuds. The water droplet slimes dented deep by the impacts before wobbling back into shape. These things really are perfect meat shields, I think, nodding at my bouncing blue troops with satisfaction. Gang Jin and I give the same order in the same breath, ranged units to suppress the wall. My lizardman archers and his centaur archers loose together, arrows crisscrossing toward the parapet and forcing several dwarves who poke their heads out to duck their thrown weapons back down. Na Seong levels his longsword and sends the centaur spearmen forward, their hooves spreading as they break into a charge, while my own side refuses to be outdone. I send the cave dwellers in to smash the gate, and the 3 Crimson Hell cavemen with over 20 regular cave dwellers behind them roar in their broken voices, and surge at it, brandishing crude stone spears and stone axes. 2 completely different styles reach the same result. Gang Jin's centaur spearmen move in perfect unison under Na Seong's command, driving their long spears precisely into the gate's hinges and seams to pry it apart at the structure, while my cave dwellers simply hammer the wooden gate flat, blunt and brutal. The sturdy stone and timber gate groans under the assault until it cannot hold, and with a heavy crash a breach is forced open. Seeing the gate lost, the dwarves on the wall roar and pour down the side stairs to plug the gap. I have my 8 militia form a quick line and thrust their spears through the openings the cave dwellers have torn, and Gang Jin's halfling slingers find their range, whirling their slings to send fist-sized stones whistling into the heads of the charging dwarves and leaving them reeling. The battlefield drops at once into the most brutal close-quarters fighting, the narrow fortress mouth packing both sides tight against each other. My cave dwellers hold the very front on fearless tenacity, while the better-armed, stronger dwarves open deep, bone-deep wounds on a cave dweller with every axe swing. I call for Snow Song to lock the line with ice thorns, and she sweeps her staff, streaks of ice shooting into the densest knots of dwarves, frost crawling up their feet and stalling them just long enough for the spears around them to find their marks. Her 7 wolves and Gang Jin's 8 slippery white-scale snakes slide in from the edges, biting at dwarf ankles and backs, sowing chaos wherever they go. For a moment, the battle deadlocks. Then a deafening roar rolls down from the highest watchtower. Ironbeard hurls his empty goblet aside and rises from his throne, glaring at the mess of a battlefield below, so furious his beard trembles, and bellows at his own troops to get out of his way. He seizes the giant battle hammer beside him, leaps, and drops his massive body straight off a watchtower over 10 meters high. He lands, and the whole ground shakes, an invisible wave of energy blasting outward and knocking the nearest cave dwellers in one water droplet slime sprawling, rolling them several times before they stop. His eyes go crimson, his hammer flares with an earth-yellow glow, and he sweeps it toward my troops. I roar at them to scatter, but it is too late. The hammer whistles past, trailing a string of terrible damage numbers, and those few units turn to white light before they can even scream. My heart bleeds. 2 regular cave dwellers gone in an instant. So this is the strength of a tier 3 boss. Gang Jin's face turns grim too, his centaurs dodging fast, but one white scale snake caught in the energy wave and wiped out at once. We give the same command again, every ranged unit to focus fire on the Dwarf King, the heroes and tier 2 troops to close in and hold him down. The dwarves on the wall are no longer the real threat. The berserk Ironbeard in front of us is. Na Song roars for glory and spurs his warhorse, which rears on its hind legs before he points his longsword at Ironbeard and leads the charge first, his centaur spearmen folding in behind into a sharp arrowhead aimed at the king's flank. My 3 Hell cavemen refuse to be left out, their massive bodies erupting with shocking power as they barrel in from another angle. Snow Song's staff lights again, and this time she chants several seconds longer, an ice spear far thicker than before forming in the air and driving for the king's knee with bone-deep cold. It cracks against his rune armor and shatters into crystals, leaving only a thin film of frost on his leg. Low damage, but a clean, slow effect, and Na Seong seizes the opening, drawing a bright silver arc and cleaving down at the wrist, holding the hammer. Sparks fly off the impact, Ironbeard roaring in pain and swinging the hammer back at him, but the seasoned hero hauls his reins and his horse leaps nimbly clear, the hammer cratering the earth where he had been. On the other side, the 3 Hell cavemen have closed in, their stone spears and axes hammering fearlessly at his back and legs. Then he turns and spins the hammer into a whirlwind that catches one of them flat, flinging its huge body backward into a deep crater, half its health gone in a stroke. My lizardman archers and his centaur archers pour every arrow onto the king, and the shafts barely scratch his rune armor. I cannot help cursing that this turtle shell is too hard. A tier 3 boss carries not only explosive attack but absurd defense, and at this rate he will simply grind my troops to death. Gang Jin shouts for Na Song to use armor break strike, and at the order a light flashes in the hero's eyes, his longsword sheathing in a faint golden glow. He spurs his horse again and shoots forward like a loosed arrow, man and mount fused into a streak of gold aimed dead at the opening on Ironbeard's chest, the gap that shows when he swings the hammer. The king senses the threat and tries to bring the hammer back to block, but the half-beat of Snow Song's slow betrays him, and Na Seong's sword punches clean into the seam of the chest armor. Ironbeard lets out his most agonized roar of the battle yet. My eyes light up and I shout for Snow Song to go now. Full power, and she does not hesitate, raising her staff and burning through her mana, ice thorn after ice thorn flying into the wound on his chest as if they were free. I roar at every ranged unit to hit the wound, and I snatch up a fallen dwarf battle axe and hurl it from a distance myself. The axe spins through the air, my aim far too poor, and it strikes his shoulder and bounces harmlessly off. It seems I truly lack the gift of the brute, better to stick to micromanagement. The pain drives Ironbeard fully mad, and he abandons all defense, the earth-yellow light on his hammer surging violently as he announces that all of us will die and raises it high before slamming it down at the ground. My eyelids twitch, and I scream that the ultimate is coming and they must retreat at once. Na Song and the two surviving Hell Cavemen turn and flee without a thought. The hammer lands, and this time it is no simple wave of energy. Centered on the impact, sharp earth-yellow spikes burst violently from the ground and spread in every direction. Na Seong, running at the front, reacts fastest, yanking his rein so his warhorse rears, halting its forward rush and leaping sideways, a few spikes grazing the horse's hooves and kicking up dust. The two Hell Cavemen are not so lucky, their clumsy bodies a step too slow even at a desperate retreat. A spike drives through the sole of one caveman's foot and out the top of its thigh, pinning it to the ground, an astonishing damage number floating up as the Tier 2 elite's health empties to white light. The other caveman is clipped at the edge, a deep bone-deep gash opening on its calf as it roars in pain, its movement gutted. Two slower regular cave dwellers are skewered on the spot, and one unlucky militiaman is tripped flat by the spreading spikes, alive but useless for the moment. Gang Jin's side fares no better, one centaur spearman and two halfling slingers caught and skewered together like candied fruit. The funniest of all are my slow slimes. Several water droplet slimes happen to be wriggling right over the spot when the spikes erupt, and the sharp points pierce their jelly bodies only to pass through as if stabbing cotton. No fatal damage at all. The slimes wobble, their health bars dropping a little past half, and keep hopping forward as if nothing happened. This thing actually resists piercing.